In a towering cathedral, a boy named Lyd Heworth stood in the shadows, ready for whatever fate had in store. He's ripped out of his role as a royal priest, and that's when the relief finally hits. They're casting him out of the glorious royal capital, sending him into exile. He slips back to his room, and there, lurking in the dark, a shadowy figure is already waiting. But it's not some random sidekick, it's his talking cat, Silky. That cat obviously demands your attention right now. Lyd has to drop some grim news, and the weight hits hard. The Archbishop himself dropped the order straight from the top. They've labeled his one-of-a-kind skill as useless, and Silky is absolutely not taking that blow lightly. The cat's got a sharp hunch. The real reason has to do with that Duke's daughter. Silky insists that Lyd's power is exactly what the capital needs most right now. The cat swivels away with a frustrated huff, but Lyd softly insists that helping people is the only thing that really counts. Silky questions whether he's truly okay with throwing away his dream. With a calm, unshakable smile, Lyd locks in his resolve. His mind snapped into place, then they stared out the window. He vows to give it everything, no matter where they send him. When Silky finally locks in on that stubborn drive, he caves, relenting for real. That cat swears he'll stick with his partner all the way to the ends of the earth. They take one last breath in the silence, staring at their own thoughts before the journey kicks off. In the capital, they kick off a sacred ritual known as the Rite of Conferment. Once a kid, he'd been handed a solemn duty he couldn't afford to mess up. Now he watches the city he fought for shrink into the distance, like the world is slipping away. A heavy hush of regret swallowed him, because the dream he had to abandon was still calling his name. But his journey doesn't stop. People everywhere still need him, and he won't let them down. The driver blurts out his next stop, Lastia Village. Lyd flashes back with a quick, grateful reply. Their carriage pushed deeper and deeper into the haunted forest, vanishing farther with every jolt of the road. He gently wakes Silky, who's been dozing right through the whole ordeal. They're finally here, so it's time to gear up and get ready. A sudden jolt yanks Silky off her feet, and she sails through the air like a thrown comet. Lyd jolted as the commotion erupted and the lid spun around. He doesn't waste a second. He vaults right out of the carriage. The driver wrestles for control as fear-rattled terror takes the horse. Lyd spots it. This animal isn't just acting weird. It's terrified of something lurking just ahead. A shocking thought hits him out of nowhere. He charges ahead, screaming at the driver to get away. A whole swarm of wyverns comes screaming down the road, tearing into whoever's stuck out there. He tightens his grip on the staff, and his face turns stone cold. He's locked in on the fastest move he can make. Wyverns thunder down the road, and they're swarming a lone girl with no backup in sight. She gasps in terror and screams, gripping a tiny knife like it's the only thing keeping her alive. But right when the beast explodes forward with a deadly lunge, right in front of her, someone suddenly materializes out of nowhere. Lyd stands her ground, right between her and the monster. The girl can only freeze in stunned silence as he whips his staff through the air in a single, swift motion and blasts the creature backward, staggering as it reels. His eyes flare with a brand new, unstoppable intensity. The girl gapes, totally stunned as violence erupts out of nowhere. But that first wyvern was only the opening act for a whole swarm coming down like a storm. He spins toward the girl and asks, right away, if she's okay. She stammers out a reply, still reeling from the attack. Silky's got her eyes on one thing only, Lyd's fighting style, and nothing else. Lyd says there's zero time for anything else. He snaps at Silky to lock in, protect that girl, no matter what. Totally baffled because the cat is talking, and it makes zero sense. Silky smugly leans in and tells her talking isn't the only weapon he's got. He can also conjure a barrier, sealing her in safety. With his new charge locked in place, Lyd lunges forward and squares up against the horde. Lyd stands alone, just one lone priest, while a sky packed with monsters looms over him. The girl flat out claims there's no way one person could stand against them all, but Silky just scoffs, dismissing it as a light pre-dinner workout for his master. She can only gape in total disbelief, stunned by how bold that cat is. Lyd snaps his eyes shut, and a gentle glow pours out from his staff. The girl snaps her head up in pure terror as the wyverns launch their brutal assault. The first one rockets downward with a furious shriek that cuts the air. She shrieks a warning, and then the whole swarm crashes down on them like a living storm. But Lyd's eyes lock on like a razor-pure, unwavering focus with no give. He lifts his weapon high and shouts the sacred staff's name. He unleashes the full, god-level might of his divine weapon. A blinding flash detonates from the staff, yanking the girl into a desperate cover as she shielded her eyes from the blinding, overwhelming light. The diving wyverns get slammed to an abrupt halt mid-air. Holy energy slams into them, and they look totally frozen in place. One after another, they slam out of the sky and start plummeting. Then, just like that, every last creature in the swarm gets wiped out and falls silent. She can only freeze jaw-dropped, totally speechless. Lid whips around with a relaxed grin, like that little problem didn't even matter. But she hasn't even seen how terrifyingly far his power really goes. Meanwhile, in the royal capital, the grand cathedral looms in eerie silence. Deep inside, a lone figure stayed up way past midnight, grinding through the night like their life depended on it. Archbishop Goldberg is practically cackling, gloating like he just won big over Lid's recent departure. Right when it finally feels like peace has him, a young priest crashes into the moment. The boy slams down a stack of documents that Liddy left behind. Goldberg's rage explodes. He ordered this research to be tossed out without mercy. Rage detonates in him as he snaps that Lid's unique skill is nothing but a worthless curse. He says this power is total junk, pure nonsense, with zero meaning and no point at all. Then bam, a sudden thought strikes him, and he freezes mid-step. It looks like he's trying to grab onto a name or digging up some memory he swears got buried. He still remembers the day Lid performed that sacred rite for Duke Vargas's daughter, an ability everyone wrote off as a total dud. He pressed the young priest for answers, demanding to know why nothing had changed at all. A flustered Lid frantically tried to blurt out what that skill was really for, but the girl's father exploded with raw fury, blasting him for dirtying the sacred ritual with the weight of his own failures. The young priest begged Goldberg, swearing that this kind of skill was insanely rare, but the archbishop waved him away like he didn't matter. He implied that if something like that lids up and fails, it'll only drag everyone into even more trouble. A veiled threat slammed into the young priests like a hammer, freezing them speechless. He smirks and declares that kicking Lid out was a generous move. Lid knew arguing was pointless, so he clenched his teeth and accepted his fate. But before he went, he demanded one final thing: deliver his research exactly as he planned. He prayed that his findings would light the way for everyone who followed in his footsteps. The archbishop sneered as he took it, mocking fate, claiming it would be his last duty. With a nasty, cruel laugh, he barked at Lid to clear out his room and get out. That bitter memory starts to crumble away the moment a voice shouts his name. It's the girl he just saved, yanking him out of his spiraling thoughts with a sharp snap. She dips into a deep bow, eyes shining as she thanks him, because he just saved her life. He's stunned. She knows his name. Then she calmly says she was counting on him showing up. She clicks instantly. This has to be the new priest for Lastia Village. Flustered out of her mind, she blurts out an apology and scrambles to introduce herself. Her name is Millie Chambal. She's a sister from the village, and everyone knows it. Lid steps back in and delivers the intro again, wearing a soft, reassuring smile. Millie admits she's honestly shocked by him. She admits she'd been expecting a way older priest, and she's stunned to find someone so young, yet unbelievably powerful, would be sent to their village, and it left Lid completely speechless. But Millie swears up and down that he's the real deal, truly incredible. If a priest can mow down a whole swarm of wyverns, then yeah, respect is the only word that fits. Lid flashes a shy little grin, trying to play down just how insane those feats are. But Silka cuts in fast, saying he's so used to being underestimated that it doesn't even faze him anymore. Millie's still trying to wrap her head around what she just witnessed. Her eyes snap to the chatty cat she's been dying to figure out, and Silky is absolutely thrilled to introduce himself as Lid's partner. Millie's mind fried as she wondered if talking cats are just everyday normal in the capital, but she snaps right into this new reality, grinning as she happily shakes Silky's paw. Under the moonlight, as they pushed forward, Lid finally snapped, "So why were you in that deadly place?" She told me she was out hunting specific medicinal herbs like they mattered more than anything. Her face hardens as she drops the shocking truth. Some mysterious illness is ravaging her village. Lid remembers how she gripped the basket tight, while Silky sizes up the herb and judges it as top-notch. She tells them these herbs are so rare around here, they're practically unheard of. She blurts out a fast apology for bringing up something this grim right out of the gate. With a dazzling smile, she lets out a burst of hope like, finally, everything's about to change. Her eyes drop down to her hands, realizing just how brutal the trials were that she had to survive just to reach these herbs. He stares up at the moon, then softly nods like, "Yeah, I feel the same." At last, the first houses of Lastia village burst into view, but Millie feels it in her bones. Something's off because the square erupts in a loud commotion. Two villagers lay eyes on them and shout in pure relief, "She's back." Millie clutches Silky to her chest, eyes blazing with worry. A woman with long, flowing hair bursts out of the crowd like she's been summoned there. Her older sister, Lana, barrels toward her at full speed. She yanks Millie into a tight hug and snaps at her for showing up late. Lana confessed she was losing sleep, terrified the worst was about to happen. The village chief strides up and drops the bombshell. Right then, they were getting ready to send out a search party. Millie blurts out another apology, then throws her head up with pride and unveils her basket packed with rare herbs. The chief can only break into a relieved smile when he sees her safe and sound. But Lana's worry crashes back in and she starts asking again and again whether her sister is really okay. Millie's eyes snap to Lid, the quiet stranger who just saved her life. Beneath the moon's quiet stare, Millie blurts out that this priest is the one who saved her life. Her sister drops into a quick bow and blurts out sincere thanks from the bottom of her heart. She calls out Lid by name, and the tension in her face melts into pure relief. The villagers crowd in, and the panic finally starts to drain out of their faces. Lid takes one look around and instantly sees the close-knit world right in front of him. The chief can finally breathe Millie safe, and he's proud he managed to help. Lana leans in and gently scolds her sister, reminding her just how loved she truly is. And when Lid sees it, he instantly knows his whole journey was worth every step. Lana keeps staring at the young priest, curiosity blazing hotter by the second. But that sweet moment gets ripped apart when Lana suddenly crumples to the ground. Millie screams in terror as her sister crumples to the ground. That peaceful night shatters, and the village's grim reality crashes in like thunder. The chief grabs the lead and orders Lid to shoulder Lana, steering him straight toward the church. When Lid finally gets a good look, her stomach drops. She can't believe what she's seeing. Inside the church, they've turned it into a hurried ward for everyone afflicted. He presses for healers, then hears the crushing truth magic, and medicine can't do a thing. Millie shoots him a remedy brewed from her hard-won herbs, fast as lightning. Lana drags herself forward and sips the medicine, mustering a shaky little thank you. She tries to calm them down, insisting all she needs is some rest. Millie can only stare as her hope crumbles with every heartbeat that slips by. Outside, the chief snaps that half the village is down with sickness, while Lana realizes she pushed herself way too far. Just then, Millie bursts out, her face ghost white with pure panic. She tells Lid the herbs are doing nothing, and there's no way she can collect enough for everyone. The chief snaps his eyes shut, admitting he's got no moves left. But Lid's voice slices through the despair, roaring that there's still another way out. Millie and the chief both snap their heads toward him, and hope sparks in their eyes. He tells her he can perform the rite of conferment on Millie, the exact ritual that shipped him straight out of the capital exile, and all. Millie snaps into action and accepts his offer without wasting a single heartbeat. She nods instantly, ready to do anything if it means saving her sister and keeping the whole village alive. Millie clasps her hands in prayer and braces herself for the ritual. Lid steps in close behind her and kicks off the sacred rite of confirmation. A blinding burst of light erupts the moment he places his hand on her back. Beneath the quiet night sky, the village's fate hangs by a thread, and everything rests on what happens next. The chief keeps his eyes locked on her, already realizing the skill he's about to give her is going to feel like a gift from fate. He understands the odds are brutal. One useful power is a long shot, but he has to cling to that hope anyway. Right then, a soft thud shatters the solemn quiet. Silky plopped onto his shoulder and hissed at the old man. "Don't you worry about LUD." The ritual finally breaks, and they tell Millie she can open her eyes. She jolts awake and realizes glowing runes are swirling all around her. Lid coolly lays it all out. This is every skill she has to offer. She's left completely speechless by what he says next. Pick one. The idea that you could pick your own skill. It's never been done, at least not in anyone's wildest dreams. The choices blow wide open, from raw physical upgrades to explosive magic that could light up the sky. Millie's never even heard of anything like that, so she blurts out, "Okay, but how many are there?" That list of possible powers just keeps going endless, like it'll never stop. The chief takes one look and instantly calls them legendary red-letter skills. He drags up a dusty old legend about a priest who could unleash powers like that. But Silky smugly grins and insists this is just the opening act. Millie snaps to it. There are too many choices for her not to save everyone. Then her gaze locks onto one specific one, like it's calling her name. A jaw-dropping skill known as the Blessing of the Plant King. She's never laid eyes on it before, but that golden glow hits her like a spotlight. It gives the user full command over every plant and turns their power up to max. She snaps her head to Lid her decision, already locked in the second it hits her. Lid kicks off the final stretch of the ritual, calling the goddess's power into the world. A radiant crown drops from the sky onto Millie the moment she accepts the gift. Then he hands her one of the herbs he'd picked earlier. He tells her to touch it and lock in on her brand new power, and she shuts her eyes, pouring that power straight into the herb. In the blink of an eye, that tiny plant shoots up and starts growing. And watch it grow. Millie's jaw drops in total disbelief. She can only stare, utterly lost, as the leaves suddenly burst outward and swallow the space around her. The plant rockets upward, blasting her straight into the sky. Now it looms over the village church, an unstoppable monument to her brand new power. Lit tells it straight bigger leaves pack a stronger punch in the medicine. With fresh hope blazing, Millie hands her sister the brand new remedy. Lana gulps it down, and for a heartbeat, nothing at all happens. Then her eyes burst open, bright and alive again. Millie lets out a sharp cry as her sister jolts upright, stunned and totally lost. Lana's stunned Millie's hug hits her like a weightless wave, and for the first time she feels nothing but relief. The village chief bolts out at full speed, desperate to spread the miraculous news to everyone else. When Lana fires off the question, Lee leans in and tells her the truth. Millie's brand new power is what caused it. The chief leans in and tells the other sick villagers that Millie is the one who healed her, and before long, the whole church erupts with cheers, joy pouring in as everyone recovers. Millie's eyes brim as she grabs Lid's hands and tells him the whole village is finally getting better. He fights to give her credit, but she's already crowned him a literal godsend. Lana stared at the young priest, her face blazing with awe and gratitude all at once. The villagers swarm around Lid, shoving food into his hands and roaring their gratitude for saving them all. The villagers burst into cheerful news they're throwing a full-on welcome party for their brand new priest. A massive feast sprawls across the heart of the village square, laid out like a celebration about to explode. Silky watches glowing on while the whole town throws a wild celebration with non-stop food and drinks. He clocks that Lid's wiped out, but our boy only grins like gratitude. This big is totally new to him. The villagers kept raining gifts and food on him, non-stop. Silky notices it right away despite his exhausted face. Lid looks genuinely thrilled, glowing like he belongs among these warm, welcoming people. Meanwhile, Silky's kept munching like there's no tomorrow, scarfing down enough food to feed the whole village, and Lid can't stop laughing at it. The celebration doesn't stop, it blazes into the night, roaring with laughter and non-stop life. At the table, Lid leaned in and told Millie and Lana about the illness, admitting he'd never seen anything like it. But Silky wisely makes it clear tonight's crisis is officially shut down. Lurd nods along with his companion, then finally stops holding back and dives into the feast like he's been starving for it. But the second he's about to take that first bite, Millie suddenly calls out his name. She demanded to know if it was really true if they shoved him into exile just because he was worthless. Lana presses the Archbishop's call, and Lid can only stammer out a shaky yes, totally flustered. Silky snaps into the conversation, calling the Archbishop a prejudiced fool who never even bothered to witness Lid's power. Lid tries to calm his partner down, but the cat's on fire and won't stop. He calmly tells them it all worked out for the best because he managed to save their village. Millie stares at him, and pure admiration lights up her face. She nods along with his words, and Silky just throws her hands up because her master is hopelessly, almost annoyingly good-natured. Lana reels him in, and he snaps around with a calm, reassuring smile. She beams at him and tells him, smiling bright, that she genuinely respects him. Lid's eyes widen in shock when a brand new voice suddenly calls out, praising him out of nowhere. Suddenly, a hand clamps onto him from behind, yanking him back in an instant. A young boy burst in, scanning the room as he demanded, "Is Lid here?" Lana totally gets every detail of what's happening. Lid just flashes a soft smile, saying she seems so kind. She thanks him again, still shocked that he just saved them from the wyverns. Then she opens up and offers him their spare room as a place to crash. He politely swats the idea away, but Lana won't let it go. She insists their home is where he belongs, and that's the thing. He's the hero who saved them all. Silky, though, wastes no time. She's thrilled to take that offer. Lid shoots a worried glance, asking if she's really sure, but Lana only grins and seals it with a confident yes. She orders Millie to lead him the way, then turns to the village chief and starts talking. Lid grins, realizing he's finally going to stay with the two sisters. The thought of sharing the same roof with Lid sends Millie into a full-blown panic spiral. Lid glances over, completely thrown as her sudden burst of giggles bubbles out. She steadies her breath in seconds and flashes a smile, saying she can't wait for it. Then, out of nowhere, she yanks his arm and drags him along with her. Silky sits at the table, eyes locked on the girl, and can't stop praising her wild, unstoppable energy. Millie guides their brand new priest toward home, and he tail slips into the night right behind them. In their new temporary home, the night goes dead silent. Lid pauses and realizes the villagers' kindness isn't small. It's everywhere, wrapped around her like a warm light. Silky snaps at him, reminding him that tomorrow is when the real work finally starts. He tells Lid to get some rest, acting like he doesn't care. After that last goodnight, our boy finally crawls into bed and settles in for the night. Next morning, a loud voice cuts through the air, Leedy, and everyone turns toward him. Millie was pounding on his door, trying to wake him up. Not hearing a thing, she calls his name again, concern creeping in fast. She slips a peek inside and finds him crashed out, still fast asleep. Silky smiles at her and says it straight. Lid is definitely not a morning person. Silky little comments make it sound like this is Liddy's normal morning, like nothing could ever go wrong. Millie can't stop staring at his adorable sleeping face, but Silky pokes her like, "Come on, get to it." She snaps back to the planned breakfast, and before she can even sit down, Silky has a way better idea. Her cat's suggestion just leaves her totally flustered. He smirks and drops a cheeky nod to a fairy tale about a kiss that wakes someone up, and shoots her a wildly mischievous wink, like the ultimate helpful wingman. Millie can't stop her mind from racing, and her heart hammers like it's trying to break out of her chest at the thought. Silky flashes a smug smirk, and you can tell she's straight up loving every second of it, while the Lid snores on, totally clueless to everything happening. Millie scoots in closer, then softly brushes his hair back from his face, but her determination crumbles as she kneels beside his bed. Right as she hesitates, a sudden blast of sound rips through the silence. His eyes snap open out of nowhere. He jolts awake, and there's Millie's face staring right inches from his. The second those two lock eyes, they both freeze, pure mutual shock hitting at the exact same time. He jerks upright just as she scrambles to clear up the misunderstanding. Silky can't stop smiling. This new morning routine has her absolutely thrilled. Later, after a breakfast he truly earned, Millie beams and happily agrees to show him around the village. Lid, thank you, sir, readying himself to hunt down where this illness truly came from. Millie's grinning ear to ear, practically glowing with excitement as she plays his guide. And, just like that, their wild tour of Lastia Village kicks off. They stroll through a calm countryside landscape where every rustle of nature feels like a soft breath in the air, stepping inside and soaking up the quiet, simple beauty of his brand new home. Millie can't help but gush about how stunning the village looks, so much so that she's practically hooked on him, leaning on him like it's the only place she wants to be. But Lid looked completely lost, scanning the area around them like his mind was somewhere else. Millie catches the distraction and shoots him a sharp question. Are you searching for something? He tells them that he and Silky are hunting the source of this sickness, trying to track down where it all began. She fired off, so did you find any clues yet? Lid clocks the situation and decides there's nothing off at all inside the village, so the sickness has to be coming from somewhere outside that place. His gaze slides toward a river spilling down from the nearby mountains, a relentless surge that slices straight through the land. Then he spots something wild, an eerie thing climbing out of the mountains upstream. Millie reveals the truth behind that smoke, tracking it straight back to the mining city of Dowell. That name hits a nerve. Lid's like, wait, I know this. and Millie drops the bomb that it's turned into a total boomtown, he still remembers the rumor people said they just struck a brand new vein of rich ore in that very place. With the river cutting straight out of that city, he snaps to attention. This is too important to ignore. And, just like that, their focus snaps to the roaring industrial city of Dowell. Back in the capital, Archbishop Goldberg is getting slammed by one stressful mess after another. His subordinate barges in and tells him a flood of letters just rolled in, every single one about Lyd Heworth. Goldberg grumbles through his teeth, baffled that mail keeps showing up for an exiled priest. The trembling underling starts reading the very first letter out loud, one shaky word at a time. It comes from a noble who can't believe the stupid move of banishing someone this talented. Goldberg sees it as a direct attack on his pride, then snaps at the messenger on the spot. He waves it off fast, insisting Lyd's only real talent is somehow getting people to like him. When someone asks Goldberg how he should respond, he shrugs it off and spits that the opinions of commoners are worthless. The subordinate blurts out that Lyd mostly worked for commoners, until one shocking exception. Duke Vargas's daughter. Goldberg's smug grin blooms as he remembers one thing: this church survives on noble donations. The subordinate's hands shake as he nervously grills the financial report clutched in his grip. He stammers and jabs a finger at a glaring discrepancy because the document in question is a donation ledger for a major marquee. But Goldberg explodes with fury, snapping that the numbers are dead on correct. The terrified priest can only blurt out apologies, and then he backs away, fast. Goldberg smirked and made it crystal clear. Personal gifts have nothing to do with church business. The story jumps straight into the sprawling industrial city of Dowell. Right back in the village, Millie jolts to a sudden memory of something crucial. She leans in and tells Lyd, "I know a bit about that mining city." She remembers hearing the word that this sudden boom has turned the Archbishop's smile to pure joy. Lyd realizes the mine's donations have skyrocketed, and that surge is throwing a dark shadow over everything. He confirms it. His worst fears hit hard. The river's poisoned, and every sick villager gulped from that exact same water. First, he goes hunting for proof because he has to slam the brakes on the damage before it spreads any further. But just as he's digging in, Millie's sudden sneeze blows the whole investigation off track. She swears she's fine, but she's clearly trembling while she tries to hide it. Lyd kindly hands her a warm drink, smiling as the icy mountain air creeps in. His tiny act of kindness hits her like a wave, and she's completely flustered. He smirks and swears his personal furry furnace. He tells her to warm up, then keeps on hustling, asking around as he goes. She hugs something close to her face like it's the only thing keeping her steady. She froze because she finally realized it was the cloak Lyd had just handed her. She knows she should hand it back, but her grip on that choice feels way too tight. But she just can't bring herself to let go. Both sisters look totally captivated by that kind priest. Silky watches, stunned, as Millie breathes in deep, savoring the scent of Lyd's cloak like it's pure gold. That cat's knowing stare snaps her right out of her daydream like it knows her secret. Meanwhile, Lyd finds the perfect spot to dig for information. He clocks her blazing red face and asks, "Hey, you okay?" She panics and scrambles to shut Silky up, while Silky just laughs and revels in her humiliation. Lyd and Millie stride into a cozy local tavern like they own the night. Silky clocks it instantly. The place is packed, wall to wall with miners. But the locals don't give them answers. They meet their questions with pure hostility. Lyd tells them he's going straight to the mine to dig into the new ore. He leans in and demands to know if that ore is poisonous or if anyone's already started getting sick. This question pulls in the kind of attention you really don't want. Lyd calmly tells them the river downstream is poisoned. The group's leader acts like this is the last thing he wants to deal with. He barks orders for his men to snatch them up, and his eyes lock on Millie like she's the real prize. A thug grabs her hard and she lets out a terrified scream, but Lyd's face hardens cold, sharp, and deadly serious. The thug gripping Millie just freezes stunned, completely clueless. In a rush of movement, Lyd surged one step forward. The leader suddenly gets launched into the air. His men can only stand there, watching as he cuts across the sea and sails right past them, and drops in with a totally humiliating crash. The last thugs gawk in shock, straight up stunned. With one wild swing of the Lyd staff, he clears the whole room in an instant. He shoots them a calm look and tells them it's time he's ready to talk now. While Silky admits they made a massive, brutal mistake, The miners, finally working together, reveal they've unearthed a brand new kind of ore. A deadly black crystal that isn't just magical, it's dangerously toxic too. Lid leans in and presses them hard for answers. She demands to know what happens to the ore. But the thugs just shrug and swear they know nothing, only that some big, powerful client is sweeping it all off the board. Lid sets a price for their silence and makes sure they pay up for the cooperation. They snap to attention and shove him straight toward the man who runs the place, the one and only Marquise Abbé, who somehow lives just around the corner, tucked behind heavy defenses. Silky, the dependable partner she always is, darts out to scout the place and get eyes on everything. He barges back with a report there are only a few guards at the gate, but way more people are slipping around inside. Lid knows he has to get right up to the Marquis, and Millie's acting like it'll be a total breeze for him. Lid leans in and tells Millie, "I'm going in solo." She panics hard, convinced he ditched her for being nothing but a burden. A familiar voice slices through the shadows, calling his name like it's already too late. Then the lid pops open, revealing a divine cloak that turns you invisible. He tells them this is a special tool, built for slipping in unnoticed, just like his own staff. But he's got one last thing to say to her, one final truth burning in his chest. He thanks her from the bottom of his heart and admits he never could have made it this far without her help. Then he whips the cloak over both of them, locking them in for what's coming next. He quickly apologized, saying the cloak's made for just one person, so it just won't fit right, and it knocks Millie's brain into a full-on total meltdown. Meanwhile, Silky is absolutely loving every second of the show. With a jittery million toe fluster, Lid braces herself and prepares to make her move. The guards at the gate are so clueless, they don't even sense what's coming. As the invisible duo slips clean past them, Silky strides forward, eyes locked in like she can already feel the target right around the corner. They slam to a halt in front of the door, sensing a brutal foul magic roaring somewhere behind it. Lid can feel the sources close by, but they're strangely masked, slipping out of view. A voice bursts from within, shouting confirmation of every fear, as the Marquis rages, griping about his sick and dying miners. And it all clicks. He's been secretly dumping toxic waste straight into the river. They yank the door open a crack and press their ears to it, eavesdropping on every word. His subordinate marquises shove the dangers in his face, but the noble just scoffs and shrugs it off. Silky's about to pounce, but Lid stops her and demands they get physical proof first. Enough is enough. Once the Marquis snaps, he grabs a sword and cuts his underling down for good. He whips the blade through the air, fully determined to end the man for good. The terrified subordinate can only shriek in pure panic, but the sword slammed down on the ground, instead missing the target by a mile. The Marquis whipped his head around. Baffled, his victim had vanished into thin air. Lid burst in, yanked the man to safety, and ordered him to dive into hiding. Millie and Silky can only stare in shock as their cover gets blown wide open. The Marquis slams the question down hard. "Who are you?" He scoffs at the accusation, grinning like his church connections make him untouchable. Lid stays unshaken and hands him a real shot to confess, then fix what he broke. But the noble just cackles, insisting his authority is untouchable. No one can question it. Lid shuts his eyes and finally accepts the truth. Force is the only way. The Marquis snaps into action, unleashing a defensive skill that springs up a towering hexagonal barrier. He's sealed inside a shimmering wall of energy trapped behind pure light. From the safety of his hideout, he taunts the young priest, sneering that his power is utterly worthless. But Lid just thrusts out his hand and calls up yet another divine weapon. A crackling colossal warhammer slams into his hands, humming with raw power. The Marquis just gapes in total disbelief. Lid shoots him a calm look and asks, "Are you really sure that barrier will hold?" He slams the hammer down in one earth-shaking swing. A savage burst of sheer power hurls the Marquis flying through the air. Lid can't help staring, stuck wondering if he pushed it a little too far. The noble got sent flying straight through the floor and into the basement below, but Millie catches something else buried in the wreckage below. They uncover a jackpot of evidence. Black crystals, stolen ledgers, and a smoking gun linking it all straight back to the capital. Word of the Marquise's crime rockets across the entire region in the blink of an eye. But Lid can't stop wondering who's still buying that toxic ore and what dark purpose it's really for. The danger's gone, and Millie grins as she waves them off with a bright, cheerful goodbye. Lid and his companions stride through the village, soaking in every step. Word about the young priest's deeds is about to explode and spread everywhere. And, finally, you'll reach the Archbishop himself. Golbert panics his donation source is gone, and he can't believe it. He can't wrap his head around it. Turns out the exiled priest is the one behind all of this. In the calm, cozy village of Lastia, life finally seemed at peace. Millie watches Goldberg's plan implode so hard it turns into a total disaster. The celebration doesn't stop. It rages on deep into the night, refusing to die out. Meanwhile, Silky's already hit her limit. Silky couldn't stop wondering why one simple celebration felt so strangely magical. Might be the spark that brought us right to this. Lid jolts awake and finds Millie collapsed, sprawled right on top of him. The tale whips back 12 hours to that very morning. A mile-long line of villagers has packed up outside the church, stretching as far as the eye can see. Lana's jaw drops when she realizes every single one of them is desperate to claim the right of conferment. Lid grins and happily agrees to help all of them. No exceptions. Lana insists the ritual can't be done for that many people. It's just not possible. Lid only smiles like he's silently promising her, "Don't worry, I can handle this." Silky cuts in fast and says Lid's power is absolutely not normal. Silky tells Lid that to train with light exercise, you don't jog, you go out and slay dragons. Millie snaps out his name, her voice trembling with pure concern. She tells him that way more people showed up than he ever dared to hope for. She pressed him, asking if he was really set on giving them all what they deserve today. Silky lets out a savage scoff, saying 100 people is nothing. Barely a warm-up. Lid just grins like, yeah, I've never tried it on a scale this huge before. Lana's still shaking with doubt, but Millie trusts him with her whole heart, no questions asked. With Millie right beside him as his apprentice, the mass ritual kicks off. She's tasked with scanning the skills, but when she sees how powerful and rare they are, her jaw literally drops. There are so many choices that her head starts spinning like crazy. Millie is wiped out from the grind of the entire day. But Lid has already locked in a full list of every skill they got. He tells them, this is for anyone who's too scared to pick a path. Lana is totally thrown off. She's baffled beyond words by what's happening. She demands to know what he thinks he's doing, letting them redo the ritual. Lid admits that the once-in-a-lifetime rule isn't a hard law. It's more like a suggestion. The villagers are left totally stunned by this jaw-dropping revelation. They're like, okay, but can you really grant skills to people who already have them? And out of nowhere, everyone's begging for a do-over. Lid bursts into a happy grin right as Lana whips around and fires a question at Silky. She grilled Silky, demanding to know if the Archbishop truly was the one who exiled him. With a knowing grin, she admits that everything clicks into place at last. That night, Millie finally breaks the silence and apologizes for what she caused earlier that day. She hates how fast her energy drains, but Lid steps in fast, telling her it's totally okay. Silky scans the feast, her curiosity spiking as she tries to figure out what kind of occasion this is. Millie beams and cheers them on as she explains how their Lid saved everyone by cracking the poisoning case. She says they'll probably throw another party tomorrow, because honestly, they don't need a reason to celebrate. Another villager grins and jumps in to help run the festivities. Lid admits the capital might have been warm, but this village feels like one giant family you can't help but belong to. Silky nods along, and you can practically hear her thinking, so this is what a real family feels like. Silky studies the whole conversation with sharp, knowing eyes, like she's already one step ahead. Lana strides up to Lid, clutching a drink like it's about to change everything. She leans in and asks him how he's holding up in Lastia village. He finally admits he's never felt this at home in his whole life. He quips that he might actually get used to this life, but Lana's smile drops and the seriousness hits her face, leaving our boy completely thrown off by that sudden, wild shift in everything. She bets that with his kind of power, they'll haul him back to the capital pretty soon. But Lid swears this village is his new home and he's not backing down. Lana grins and suddenly it clicks her sister just might be behind all of this. Then Lana drops a shocking truth about her sister that nobody saw coming. Millie tells us she was a foundling, raised by the whole village, no questions asked. Yet somehow, every single person was barely hanging on, scrambling just to make it through the day. They had no choice. One person cared for her, then the next, back and forth, until her needs were met. Young Lana felt the non-stop chasing and constant motion made her look like the villain everyone feared. A wild feeling surged through Millie the second she bolted and ran away. All night long, the villagers hunted for her, refusing to give up until the sky finally started to lighten, and caught her hiding, praying for the day she'd finally have a family of her own. Solana practically pleaded with her parents to let Millie live with them as her sister, but then, just a short while later, their parents were gone. Lid finally cracks the mystery behind her kindness, and now she knows exactly where it comes from. Lana's heart slams as she realizes he heard every word of her whole story. Silky cheekily leans in and asks, half laughing, if she's had a little too much to drink. Right then, an extremely shaky Millie lurches toward them, barely staying upright. She clings to Lid with a grin and claims him like he's already hers. Lana worries something's wrong with her sister, but Millie snaps back that it's nothing, just juice. Lana snaps out that this juice is straight up alcoholic. She grabbed Lid and begged him to drag the totally hopeless, stumbling drunk Millie back home. A request hits our boy like a truck. He can't even get a single word out. Lana pivots to Silky and challenges her to a drinking contest instead. Millie grins and blurts she's finally got him all to herself. Lid slipped away with a shaky, strained smile that screamed helplessness. He manages to drag her back to their temporary home. Once he's in, he steadies her and hauls her onto the bed. He spots some bedding and, without a second thought, plans to crash on the floor. But when he swings back around, Millie is already out cold, fast asleep. He slips his boots off in total silence and softly drapes a blanket over her like a warm promise. He stares at her for a beat, and his mind drifts somewhere deep and dangerous. Couldn't fall asleep at all. He just kept his eyes on the horizon as the sun blasted over the mountains. The tale suddenly snaps back to a memory of a little boy alone, quiet, and hurting in the silence. He snaps his head around, staring as the person walks off like nothing happened. A shadowy figure dashes away, leaving him stranded on the edge of the village. A priest spotted him with a tiny black cat in his arms. The boy glances back one final time, and a heavy gloom settles across his face. He dips his head as the priest pulls him in. A calm breath of acceptance settled in as he finally embraced his new life. The memory slips away, and suddenly the present day crashes back in. Lid drops the truth. He gets exactly how it feels to be left behind. He stares at Lana, and you can tell she's paid for every ounce of that pain. He dips down and brushes her hair aside with the softest touch. In the hush of the night, she sinks into sleep, pure, tender calm filling the air. He smiles, blown away by how she keeps pushing herself again and again, like she'll never stop trying. He decides to finally get some rest, starts to walk away, and then stops dead in his tracks because something suddenly stops him. His eyes snap wide open, totally blindsided. Millie, barely even asleep, clasped his hand with a dreamy, sleepy smile. He sees she's just jolted awake, and he realizes he's totally trapped. She whispers that his hand is still warm, then grips it tighter, like she's afraid to let go. Lid stammered out her name fully, painfully totally flustered, and with one sharp yank, his balance snaps and he goes down hard. He face plants forward with a muffled thud. Millie lifts her eyes with a groggy, sleepy apology, and Lid shocks the moment by pinning her down to the bed. Our boy is totally spiraling, and it's happening right in front of us like a full-on little meltdown. Millie shoots forward and throws her arms around him. She's joyfully announcing that she's finally nabbed the priest. He writhes and pleads, fighting with everything he's got to get freed. But his panic bounces off her completely. She just flashes a smile and tells him, flat out, there's nothing he can do. And by the end of the night, things land in a seriously compromising situation. Then she leans in close and plants a playful little bite right on his cheek, like she's teasing him on purpose. Lid's brain totally fried like a short circuit, instantly. With no coming back, she blurts out dream chatter about mouth-watering meat, and it leaves him totally baffled. He finally clocks the truth. It's only the alcohol talking, not him. Then she murmurs his name so softly it feels like a secret falling from her lips. She blurts out the truth, how this village makes her feel special just by accepting her. Lid sits in silence and drinks in every heartfelt word like it's the only thing that matters. Then she leans in and drops the bombshell. Something extra special has just shown up. A shy little grin blooms on her face as she speaks his name like a secret. And, once again, our boy is left totally rattled and flustered. He can't stop wondering, did she finally drop into real deep sleep this time? She burrows deeper under the covers, fully knocked out cold. With a gentle click, he slips the door shut, silent as a shadow. Then he slumps in place and lets out a long, drained sigh. But just when he finally catches a breath, that same familiar voice rips him out of his peace. Turns out Silky got absolutely wrecked in a drinking contest with Lana, a brutal loss that shattered the poor cat's courage and left it shaking with trauma. But he snaps back in seconds, shooting Lid a knowing smirk like he's one step ahead. He tells Lid, "You leveled up now, lock in with Millie and don't go wandering off." A throwaway suggestion that shoots straight through our boy and leaves him flustered, while Silky plays Cupid and pushes two hearts together. But right as the night feels safe, dawn crashes in and flips the whole scene. A sudden scream rips through the silence of the house like lightning. At the breakfast table, Lana smiles sweetly while Millie is completely flustered, who frantically swears last night was totally the alcohol's fault. Lid tried to calm her down, but it only made her panic harder, utter dismay. Then the story rockets right back to the royal capital's massive grand cathedral, where Archbishop Goldberg steps forward to greet a truly massive, long-awaited guest. There stands Duke Vargas, bigger than life, right beside his daughter. The Duke steps up with swagger and proudly declares the girl is his daughter, Elena. He snaps at the Archbishop to start the ritual right now. A glittering feast of sweets sprawls across the table, and the guests are about to dive in. The Duke points to the skill his daughter just unlocked and levels her up. Goldberg drops into an immediate bow and blurts out an apology, begging forgiveness for the pointless skill Lid just handed her. He's begging for the Duke's approval, but the Duke's cool, calm vibe leaves him totally baffled. But the Duke just flashes a smug smile and praises it as an amazing skill. Goldberg just gapes, utterly stunned by the praise hitting him. The Duke adds that the ritual wasn't just important, it was a breathtaking experience in its own right. The Archbishop claims that after the right hand, she fought tooth and nail just to beat a measly slime. But the Duke drops the truth that was level 1, now she's level 70, and she can wipe out wyverns by herself. Goldberg's hit with a revelation so brutal, he just goes completely speechless. The Duke declares that when she hits level 70, she turns into a one-woman army. Goldberg can barely get the words out. He's so shocked, he can only stammer. The Duke bursts into laughter, utterly thrilled by how fiercely powerful his daughter is. Goldberg's thoughts sprint as Lid's reports replay in his head. The Duke then leans in and demands the Archbishop's expert advice. Elena can't stop thinking about it. How does she reach level 100? Goldberg can't answer it, not after he tossed away every scrap of Lid's research. The Duke's face hardens as he waits, like the answer is about to set the whole room on fire. He snaps off Goldberg as unreliable, and it sends the Archbishop into pure horror. Goldberg snaps into a flashback and sees the exact documents he ordered destroyed. But Elena lifts a document that looks so familiar, it practically screams her past. She tells me Lid laid out the whole plan, get to level 100 before he leaves. The Duke glares hard and demands to know, does the Archbishop even realize what's going on? Then he smirks, and it's clear Goldberg totally misjudged that young priest, and he bluntly warns him not to ever underestimate his opponents. Goldberg stammered utterly, completely wiped out by the Duke's words. The Duke demands an answer to that protest letter he just sent to the church. Goldberg whips back to that moment he tossed the very letter aside, and color drains from his face in an instant. The Duke leans in and orders him to read it with full focus, then prove his sincerity with his actions. Because the second he smells even a hint of dishonesty, that threat drops like a weight into the air. Under the Duke's intense stare, the Archbishop can do nothing but sweat. As the Duke and his daughter finally turn to leave, Goldberg snaps to the truth he has to hunt down Lid's reports right now. Outside, Elena shouts for her father. The Duke makes it crystal clear he has zero plans to beg anyone else for help. Elena nods and says a real leader doesn't just command, they protect their people like they matter. She bursts out that the monsters terrorizing their lands are an even bigger threat. Then that petty Archbishop cast her master out into exile. The Duke snaps his fingers and remembers they sent Lid to Lastia village, so he decides, right then and there, to head there himself. Just thinking about seeing her master again lights up Elena with pure, soaring joy. Meanwhile, deep in the forests that circle Lastia village, a young boy spots trouble brewing and yells to Millie, "Beasts are coming fast." She steels herself and charges straight into the threat. No backing down. She presses her hand to the tree and demands its strength like it owes her power. She unleashes a brand new skill, sharp as a blade, a furious rain of branches. That nonstop grind is draining her fast. Lid hangs back and watches from the side, tracking her every move. The brutal strike slams all 3 boars to a dead stop, right where they stand. Millie can barely wrap her head around it. She actually made it happen. Even Silka can't help it. She's blown away and praises how fast Silka thinks. Their hunt pays off, and they waste no time racing back to the village. Millie beams and tells him these mountains were her childhood playground. Silky quips that she's way more capable than she seems, and it instantly throws her into deep embarrassment. Lid admits her deep, personal knowledge of plants let her master the skill in record time. He remembers when even a whole team was needed just to bring down one lousy boar, and that sparks a brilliant plan in Millie time to ship a whole new village export roasted wyvern. She goes straight to the chief with her proposal, while Lid grins like he finally made a difference. Lid whips his finger up and points straight at his own head. As Millie reminds him, the truth hits hard. He's one of them now. A feeling hits him so hard it shuts his mouth. He can't even get a word out. Lit nods in agreement and steals a calm, intimate moment with Millie. But right in the middle of that calm stroll, everything gets violently interrupted. A messenger on horseback came blazing in, carrying a desperate message straight from the chief. He unfurls a scroll and lays out a formal request meant for the whole village. Lid unfurls the message, and his face twists with pure confusion. It's a ruthless official command. Everyone's got to evacuate Lastia village, and not a single soul can stay behind. Back in the village, the news hit like a thunderclap. People went wild with uproar. Lana reads the decree, brow furrowing as she can't figure out where it even came from. The village is about to get wiped off the map by a reservoir. That plan sounded crazy the moment the river cleared up. Silky's convinced the nobles aren't after the land at all. They're just scheming to grab it, dirt cheap. Lana steps up and tells the villagers they'll be moved to nearby cities. But Millie is crushed. She can't even picture herself living anywhere other than here. Lid hears her plea, and determination hardens across his face. He demands to know who gave the order, and Lana drops the bomb. It came straight from a royal agency. The moment the royal family gets mentioned, Lid's eyes light up with an idea. He snatches his staff and bolts for the door, leaving his sister staring in total confusion. With a huge grin, he blazes forward and declares, "I'm going straight to meet the king." Silky fires off the plan, goes straight for the top, but he can't hide his fear that they won't even make it past the gate. But Lit swears that if he can track down a noble tied to royalty, he might finally get his shot. But then bam! One sudden commotion slams the brakes on his whole plane. He leaned in and demanded of Millie, "Did you hear that monster's roar too?" He barrels outside and shouts for her to lock down the village defenses. But she won't back down. She swears she'll stay close and help. She's terrified she won't matter. But she can't just stand there. She has to go for it. Lid rockets through the snowy forest, chasing the sound like it's calling him by name. In the open clearing up ahead, he spots something that stops him cold. A brutal pack of massive black wolves closed in, boxing the carriage in from every side. And right in front of them stands a lone swordswoman. Millie and Silky burst in at the exact right moment, just to catch the girl moments away from getting hurt. Lid whipped around to Millie and asked, "Do you really think you can handle what's coming?" With a blazing, determined grin, she nods her head and commits without a second thought. She drops to her knees and slams her hand to the dirt. She shuts her eyes tight and zeroes in on every plant around them. Her eyes snap wide open and she blasts out a brand new move, Thornbend. Thorny vines burst out of the ground so fast they practically blind you. A wolf gets snared mid-meal, fully trapped in the attack before it can even finish lunch. Every single member of the pack gets snapped up fast as the magical plants bind them tight. They fight with everything they've got and scream at the top of their lungs, but her power clamps down on them and pins them in place. Millie stared in shock, amazed that she had truly pulled it off. The sword lady freezes in shock when the sudden backup comes roaring in. But Millie's attack wasn't even the main event. It was just the spark that kicked everything off. Lid stepped forward, and his staff flared to life, glowing with raw power. His eyes fly open, and he blasts out his divine weapon like a god striking back. He slams the staff down in one decisive, no backsies motion. A blinding pillar of light crashes down on the first wolf. Then the attack explodes in a non-stop barrage that slams into the whole pack. but one of the beasts snaps the vines and breaks free. Millie screams a warning as the lone wolf slips free and vanishes. The creature slams down on the ground, braced for round 2. Meanwhile, deep in the wild forests that ring Lastia village, a young boy spots the danger and fires a warning. Millie beasts are closing in fast. She braces herself, ready to take the threat straight head on. She presses her palm to the tree and demands, almost like a challenge, to feel its strength. She unleashes a fresh skill. Branches sharpen like blades and slice the world open. That constant grind is crushing her, and she can feel it every second. Lid leans on the sidelines, eyes locked on her, tracking every step of her progress. The crushing attack slams all 3 boars to a complete stop. Millie can barely wrap her head around the fact that she actually pulled it off. Even Silky's blown away. She praises her lightning-fast thinking. With the hunt finally in their hands, they sprint back toward the village, eager to bring their victory home. Millie beams and tells him these mountains were her whole childhood playground. Silky snaps a cheeky tease that she's way more capable than she looks, while embarrassment floods her face. Lid told everyone that her deep, personal know-how of plants helped her learn the skill at lightning speed. He remembers when it took an entire team just to bring down one single boar, and that sparks a genius idea in Millie, an all-new village export roasted wyvern. She steels herself to pitch the idea to the chief, and as she does, Lid grins bright, thrilled that she actually helped. But Lid snaps his finger to his own head as Millie reminds him that he's already one of them now. That feeling hit him so hard it stole every word from his mouth, leaving our boy totally speechless. Lit nods and finally agrees, stealing a calm, quiet moment with Millie. But their peaceful walk gets shattered the moment everything suddenly changes. A messenger on a wild gallop streaks toward them, clutching an urgent message meant for the chief. He whips out a scroll packed with a formal request from the village. Lid flips the message open, and confusion hits his face like a wave. It's an official command: wipe out Lastia village completely and get out. Back in the village, the news hit like a bomb, and the whole place erupted in uproar. Lana scans the decree, her mind racing. Where in the world did this thing even come from? They're about to wipe the village off the map, flood it, and turn it into a reservoir. A plan that doesn't make a lick of sense anymore because the river is finally clean. Silky can already smell it. Those nobles aren't after the land for honor. They're trying to grab it dirt cheap. Lana makes it crystal clear the villagers are getting uprooted and shipped to nearby cities. But Millie is shattered, staring at the idea that she could ever live anywhere else, and it feels impossible. Lid hears her plea, and determination hardens across his face. He demands to know who gave the order, and Lana drops the bombshell. This was a royal agency. The moment the royal family gets mentioned, a light bulb clicks in Lid's head. He snatches his staff and barrels for the door, leaving his sister staring in total confusion. With a blazing smile, he declares, "I'm going to meet the king." Silk lays out the plan to appeal straight to the top, even as he can't shake the fear they'll never make it past that gate. But Lit swears that if he can track down a noble with royal ties, his luck might finally turn. But just as he starts to move, a sudden commotion explodes out of nowhere and shatters everything. He leaned in and asked Millie if she'd heard that monster's roar too. He bolts outside and orders her to lock down the village defenses, but she refuses to fall back, swearing she'll stay in the fight and help. She knows she might not make a difference, but she can't just stand by. She has to try. Lid bolts through the snowy forest, sprinting straight toward the sound. He spots something in the distance, right there in the open clearing. A terrifying pack of massive black wolves has closed in around the carriage, trapping it in their dark circle. And there she stands, just one lone swordswoman, facing them all. Millie and Silky burst in right on time, only to catch the girl right as danger closes in. Lid whips her head toward Millie and asks, straight up, if she really thinks she can handle what's coming. With grit in her eyes, she smirks and confidently says yes. She drops to her knees and presses her hand to the earth, like it's speaking back. She shuts her eyes tight and zeroes in on every plant surrounding them. Her eyes snap wide open, then she rips out a brand new power thornbind. Spiky vines explode from the ground at lightning speed, ripping into view like a sudden nightmare. A wolf freezes in mid-lunge, totally trapped and tangled in the strike. Every last member of the pack gets snapped shut and tied up in seconds thanks to the magical plants. They fight and scream, but her power clamps them down fast, and no one breaks free. Millie stares in pure shock, stunned that she truly pulled it off. The swordswoman freezes, shocked when that sudden backup finally hits. But Millie's attack wasn't the main event. It was only the opening shot. Lid lunges forward, and his staff flares bright with raw power. His eyes burst open, and with a roar, he unleashes his divine weapon. He slams the staff down in one clean, decisive strike. A blazing pillar of light crashes down on the first wolf. He unleashes a brutal barrage that rips through the entire pack, but one of the beasts rips itself loose from the vines. Millie yells a desperate warning as the lone wolf slips free. The creature slams down on the ground, roaring for round 2. A lone wolf bares its fangs and snarls straight at the swordswoman, but her eyes burned with cold, unshakable resolve. She rockets off the ground, blasting into the air faster than your eyes can follow, unleashing one deadly decisive slash. She drops in with total grace, and the moment her strike lands, everything jolts into impact. The last beast gets blasted into the sky, screaming as it sails through the air. With the danger crushed, she flings her sword aside like it's nothing. Her eyes snap onto the lid and her face shifts in an instant, like something dangerous just clicked, and she bursts into a joyful leap, wrapping him in her arms and calling him her master. Millie's left staring at the situation, wondering when on earth Lid started snagging apprentices. Elena bursts in with a bright smile and cheerfully introduces herself. She's the Duke's daughter. Then everyone finally settles in, and the conversation turns way calmer. Millie's hands shake as she nervously pours tea for their noble guest, who nods with a shockingly soft smile. Millie is still reeling from that way too bold introduction. Lit lunges into the moment and quizzes Elena about why she's here. Barking that she's her master, she demands he ditch the formalities and call her by her name. Then she leans in and asks, "So, have you heard the whole story from Millie yet?" And he breaks into a trembling, tear-soaked plea, begging him to stop shutting her out and come closer. Lid nods calmly, then pushes her again. "So, why did you really come to the village?" She tells him she came all this way just to get his advice on her skill. Then she explodes in rage, remembering every second of her trip to the capital. Millie is completely swept away by the noble girl's charm. She can't stop staring. Her beauty hits like lightning, and that noble presence makes everyone hold their breath. Elena steadied herself and said, "I'm here for my father's sake. Their lands are getting slammed by a monstrous outbreak so huge it feels like the world is ending." The Duke leans in and begs Lid for her help to stop a looming threat. Elena can't hold it in. She tackles him again and squeezes him in a grateful hug, bursting with pure joy. Millie is buzzing with energy right now, and she's treating all of this like a chance to level up. But Silky calls it out if she helps them. Her own mission gets pushed back, and she won't let that happen. Elena whips her head around, totally baffled by what the cat just said. She panics instantly when she realizes Lastia Village is under a full emergency shutdown. Silk lays out Lid's daring plan appeal straight to the king himself. But Elena hits back with a brilliant plan. She tells her father to pull strings and get an audience like it's nothing. Silky flashed a silky smirk and declared it was finally over. She pitches a risky deal, and Lid jumps in to help while her father steps up and saves the whole village. Once their new alliance clicks into place, they waste no time and launch out immediately. But here's the snag: her carriage is smashed to pieces, and her father is nowhere near, stuck far away. Lid lets it slip that he's got a divine travel weapon, and Silky may have to suffer through the ride. The cat stares down in pure horror, already knowing, deep in its bones, exactly what's about to hit next. He snaps his fingers and calls forth his divine travel weapon, Solomon's Carpet. While Elena gasps at the floating rug, Millie just can't make sense of it. The carpet rockets straight into the sky at blinding speed, ripping across the land like a comet blazing through the sky. Elena's loving every second of the ride, but Millie is gripping that lid like it's the last thing keeping her from falling. Silky wisely blurts out that bringing up falling is basically asking for bad luck. Millie's terrified everyone can feel it, while Elena looks like she's having the time of her life. Then the Duke's daughter drops a brilliant idea, pure genius, but it sparks like chaos. She blurts that she's terrified too, then clings to Lid from behind like she won't let go. A single move yanks the whole situation sideways, ripping the balance out from under them and slamming them into a wild spin. After one wild, stomach-dropping flight, they finally land in the Duke's territory. Duke Vargas, only him, steps up and greets them with a warm, welcoming smile. He's stunned at how fast they got there, and Lid breaks the tension with a polite greeting. Elena's still reeling from the aftershocks of that magical mystery tour. The Duke can do nothing but stare, utterly stunned at what's happening to his daughter. Later that night, inside the Grand Vargas Manor, everything felt like it was holding its breath. They all crowd together to slam out plans for the urgent crisis burning right now. The Duke cuts straight to the chase and slams the monster infestation right onto the table. He spreads out a map and lays bare how the local forces are getting crushed, trying to hold the line. He breaks the news the monsters are pouring in from the southwest, and the situation looks completely grim. Lid jabbed a finger at one exact spot, the Sariana Great Falls. The Duke tells him straight up the whole region has been locked out for ages. Lid's jaw drops. She can't believe she's heard. This is a world-famous scenic spot. Elena finally clicks the plan is to hit the enemy's main force head-on. The Duke whips around to Lid and demands, "Can I count on you?" Our boy grins and says, "That's exactly why I showed up." But the Duke clenches his fist, fury flashing across his face, and he confesses the crushing shame of not being able to protect his own lands. Elena leans in and tells him she's stronger now, then says with Lid in their corner, they can win. With a proud grin, her father nods and hands the fate over to them. The Duke gives the final nod to their plan, and at dawn, they launch out like a storm. Meanwhile, Millie is living it up in her fancy guest room like it's the best day of her life. She's practically bouncing with joy over that ridiculously soft bed. She's bouncing around like she's straight out of a fairy tale, pure princess energy. But her secret celebration gets ripped in half the moment someone knocks at the door. She slowly cracks it open, heart pounding, as she can't stop guessing who's behind it. It's Elena, and for once, she looks way more vulnerable than anyone's used to. The Duke's daughter straight up admits she's terrified to sleep by herself and begs for you to let her stay. Millie is totally thrown off by the sudden, unexpected request, but she shakes it off fast, then breaks into a bright grin as she happily welcomes her new roommate for the night. Millie leans in and demands to know why Elena picked a combat-focused skill. The second the words leave her mouth, regret punches her in the chest. She realizes she just asked something way too personal. But Elena leans in and admits that her power wasn't just ability, it was the one wish she'd begged for. She leans in and asks Millie, "Did you catch your dad's arm? Years ago, he threw himself into a brutal battle, fighting with everything he had to defend the capital. He took the fight head on, and when it cost him his arm, it shattered her to the core." But her father rushed in to soothe his crying daughter, wiping away her tears with shaking hands. He leaned in and told her the sacrifice would be the key because it would carve out a future for her. Millie locks in on his actions and realizes the Duke isn't just a name. He's a real hero, and Elena is ready to claw back the power he lost. Millie's heart explodes with emotion. She's a total fangirl, living for every word in Elena's story. Elena lays it out, clear she wants to beat her father, and Lid helps her lock that dream into reality. Then she flips the script, claiming Millie's devotion to Lid runs on the same kind of reason. A simple suggestion hits Millie like a lightning strike, and her brain totally restarts from scratch. Elena just flashes a smile because she already clocked the truth. She can't help but find his flustered reaction totally adorable, and she admits it with a knowing smile, saying she gets it completely because she's felt the exact same way. With their rivalry fully ignited, she finally calls it quits and heads to bed. She yanks Millie in and pulls her under the covers, like it's their secret hiding spot. Millie, cheeks burning, blurts out, "So what does a noble lady even do in a mess like this?" She can't help but wonder, do noble ladies normally boss around maids for stuff like this? But Elena just smiles and gets even cuter. She offers to sing her a lullaby. The very next day, the whole team tore into the Sariana Great Falls. Elena snaps into action, her blade whirling so fast it looks like a streak of lightning. She rushes over to Millie. She's drenched to the bone, yet grinning like she's loving every second of the fight. The two girls lock shoulders back to back, poised to crush the fight and score a glorious victory bath. Silky suddenly notices they're clicking, like the two of them have been best friends forever. He smartly points out that they've already forged a bond over a common mission, a hem Lid. Millie tilted her head, stunned, as the waterfall's massive roar dwarfed everything in sight. But Silky's ears flicker. She senses something lurking right nearby. They burst into the basin of the Sariana Great Falls, just as the roar of the water swallows the air. Silky blurts out, "The enemy's right up ahead," and snaps them into action. A deep, bone-shaking rumble rolls through the mist like something huge is coming. And, in the water, a towering shadow slowly starts to form. Elena squints, strained her eyes, trying to pin down the dark figure closing in. It's a king toad, massive beyond belief, absolutely gigantic. The team braces in front of the beast, and it looms so huge they look completely swallowed up by it. While Elena recoils in disgust, Millie looks weirdly impressed. She even slips into a quick daydream where it's just a sweet, friendly little village pet. But the toad rips that dream apart with a lightning speed strike. Elena recoiled at the giant toad like it was pure nightmare, and the disgust hit her hard. But Millie freezes because the beast has Elena pinned to the ground. Lid stares at the scene, and then it hits him. Realization crashes in like thunder. He finally clicks this king toad is the one fueling the whole monster outbreak. Its massive size and crushing power just tore the whole region out of balance. Millie realizes that if they take down this one creature, that whole infestation is going to get wiped out. No way it drags on forever. Elena yanks her sword free, eyes blazing with unshakable resolve. She declares this is the perfect moment to power up and level up for real, and unleashes a brutal, earth-shaking thrust that hits like pure power. Her blade flashed forward, and it landed dead center on the massive beast. Millie throws herself into the wind, yet Lid's instincts twitch like something's terribly off. Her attack snaps back like nothing happened, landing with the limp force of a soaked noodle. The king toad erupts in a rage-filled croak that shakes the whole scene and slams that massive hand down onto her. She snaps back at the last second, barely dodging a full-on crushing hit. But the beast's tongue snaps out like a whip, hooking the Duke's daughter in its grip. She digs in her heels, clawing for leverage as the creature's overwhelming strength grinds her down. Millie asks, "Am I okay?" But Elena just freezes, stunned that her sword couldn't do a thing. She remembers how king toads aren't usually the kind to go on the attack. Millie spots it and realizes this creature matches a description straight out of an ancient text. Elena's like, "Wait, what do you mean by that text?" Because she's completely thrown. Millie tells you about an old legend, an ancient monster outbreak that tore the world apart centuries ago. A freak plague spawned from a giant toad nearly erased the whole kingdom. A legendary monster they called the Gigantoid, shrouded in mystery and feared by all. And as they freeze in pure horror, Lid's staff erupts into a blinding glow. The girl's fear snaps into faith as she declares, "Our master is here, he's coming to save us." Lid's eyes narrowed as he finally unleashed the full, godlike power of his divine weapon. That massive beast finally jolts, flinching for the very first time. A blinding burst of holy light erupts, swallowing the whole battlefield in one searing flash. Silky claps her hands, already savoring the victory feast, because that decisive blow is just her opening move. But then Lid blurts out that he messed it up. Turns out he actually missed it, and that's the best news ever. The girls whip their heads around, frantic, where the heck is that monster hiding? Silk snaps his gaze upward mid-scream, shouting a warning with pure panic. That giant toad launched itself high into the sky, and it's now diving straight at them, like a shot fired from the dark. It slams into the ground with a thunderous, earth-shaking impact. Elena erupts with a terrified scream, bracing for the absolute worst, but the girls blink open their eyes, stunned and completely safe. Lid slams into position, and a shimmering barrier flares up in front of them, shielding everyone from the incoming attack. The massive toad rockets away with a thunderous leap, blasting off with insane power. A slick, silky strand grabs Lid's head with a death grip, refusing to let go. He shoved them all onto Solomon's carpet right before it was too late. The girls rush up and shout, "Hey, are you okay?" He bolted away, widening the gap between himself and that monster fast. But Lid realizes this brawl isn't anywhere near done. The Gigantoad tears forward with another lightning-fast strike. Its tongue snaps out at the last second, narrowly missing the flying carpet by a hair. They realize the beast is blazing too fast to land a clean hit straight on, and that toad just sits there, totally unfazed, like nothing's happening. Lid realizes that his close-range hits and his long-range blasts are both failing. Nothing he throws lands. He clenches his fist, and a brand new plan locks into place in his mind. He whips around to Millie and demands to know if she can command the plants, even from this far away. She tells him straight up if she can still spot them, she can command every single one. Lit lays out the whole plan. He's about to drop down hard and cause a full-on diversion. before anyone even opens their mouth. He cinches that silky grip tight and sets it up ready to go. With one last word, he rockets off the carpet and dives into the open air. Silky lets out a calm, dignified scream. No panic, just pure control. Right on schedule, thick vines burst from the earth and slam into the gigantode, trapping it in midair. Lidge leans over the edge above and screams, praising Millie for landing her move with perfect timing. He summons the legendary hammer, Mjolnir, and the whole world seems to brace for impact. The exact same weapon he used to bring down the Marquise. He slams it straight onto the monster's head. The beast screams in agony the moment the hammer finally lands, and our boy hits the deck in one piece, trapped in a bubble cushion, because of course Fate's got his back. Millie and Elena are totally stunned. Words just won't come out of their mouths. From where they stood, they couldn't help but rave about the sheer, unstoppable power he had unleashed. Lid flashes a small, humble smile like it's no big deal at all, but his companion is utterly shaken, trauma still clinging to them. With his feet back on the carpet, Lid hands himself a special treat to finally quiet those frayed nerves. Silky leans in and asks the girls if they've got anything to say for themselves, but Millie's eyes widen. She swears that Gigantode is shrinking right in front of them. It's about as big as a normal king toad, and it's fully neutralized. Millie snaps to attention. Something feels horribly off, so she blurts out Lid's name in pure panic. As they all lock eyes, stunned out of their minds. A colossal black crystal is jammed deep in the ground like a sleeping nightmare. That same poisonous ore ripped straight out of the Marquis' mine. Meanwhile, a hooded, shadowy figure slips through the dark woods, vanishing between the trees with every step. Gazing at the scene, he realized the toad was gone, completely vanished. A tattooed hand clamps onto the window frame, and from the shadows, they stare in silence. That mysterious figure whispers, eyes gleaming, that the time has finally come. He boldly declares that it's all unfolding exactly as some divine plan demands, and from this city, a brand new world order is about to kick off right on the horizon. Back at the Vargas estate, the crew finally burst home, all set to pick up the next move. The Duke bursts into joy and greets Lid, relieved beyond words to see him safe and sound. He clocks that confident look blazing on our boy's face. Lit lays it out. They smash the Gigantode, the very thing behind the outbreak. The Duke freezes in shock, because he just recognized that beast from the ancient legends. He thanks Lid, but Lid just shrugs it off, insisting it was all a team effort. The Duke admits the fight is brutal as hell. Lid goes still and listens, and his face gives away nothing. He drops into a deep bow and grins, delivering his official thanks like it matters. Our boy is totally thrown off by that gesture, but he's got something to blow the Duke away with, unveiling that all too familiar toxic black crystal. The Duke spots the ore at once, like his instincts are reading it. Lit says it was built to supercharge the Gigantode. He leans in and demands, "How can you be so sure it was on purpose?" Because that poison was pulled out by human hands, one brutal extraction at a time. Lid can't help but wonder, did that toad just swallow the crystal by pure luck? He leaned into the Duke and demanded to know if any illnesses like these had ever struck his lands. The Duke finally figures it out, or from the dowel is the trigger behind this outbreak. He swears he'll track down the buyer, and he thanks Lid for being the lifesaver who helped him more than anyone. Then his focus snaps to Millie and to what fate is about to hit Lastia village. He can't ignore the chaos this black crystal has unleashed. Elena lunges forward and tells him, point blank, that their village's nightmare still isn't finished. The Duke finally agrees to talk, but only after everyone scrubs up and cleans the place first. And, just like that, the whole team dashes off for the rest they've been dying to get. Elena soaks in the bath like all her stress finally melts away. Then she praises Millie for her part in the fight, but Millie can't stop thinking she was just a burden. So Elena flicks her with a playful splash to knock her out of it. Millie swears up and down that their win was 100 because of Lid's brilliant strategy. A sharp, sudden realization hits the Duke's daughter like a bolt of lightning. She yanks Millie into a tight hug and beams, "You're my new friend." Elsewhere, Silky is living his best life, soaking up a private spa day like he owns the place. Elena leans in and asks, is Lid always this brilliant when he's planning things? Millie admits it's brutal, just trying to keep up with the storm of his thoughts. Elena raged in sorrow, furious that someone with that kind of talent got kicked out of the capital. But Millie just flashes a smile and tells her, "Don't worry about it." She flashes a confident grin and promises that her father will make sure Lid gets yanked back to the capital. With a playful wink, she says this is going to be easy to set up. Millie can only manage a quiet, heavy nod. Elena immediately blurts out a rushed apology for those thoughtless words, but Millie insists the capital is the only place he was truly meant to be. A single sentence hits the Duke's daughter like a thunderclap, stealing every word from her mouth. Millie dodged the topic and lit up, smiling as she remembered planting a garden with Liddy. Elena stares back at her, and a calm, understanding spark ignites in her eyes. That night, the story cuts to the Duke pulling Lid into a serious talk. He tells them the evacuation order came from a rogue agency, and he's gearing up to rip it apart and get it overturned. Millie bursts in and tells you Lastia is more than a place. It's a priceless home that everyone there protects with their lives. Elena listens, really listens, and you can feel the weight of their plea land in her heart. Then she sinks into a deep bow to her father and asks formally, respectfully, for his help. The Duke flashes a confident smile and promises he'll take charge of the royal family himself. A wave of pure relief crashes across Elena's face like her whole world just exhaled. Meanwhile, Silky blows off the excitement by celebrating their brand new, unbelievably powerful ally with a snack. But then the Duke snaps his focus right back to the group. He leaned in and asked Lid if he wanted to ride back to the capital. The question just hangs there, and it hits Millie and Elena like a sudden punch to the chest. The Duke leans in and says, "Easy, I can flip that exile right back." Lit can't believe it. He's staring at the offer to go back to the capital. The Duke bears the truth. Goldberg's greed is going to crush the people. He claps for Lid, praising how she saved both Lastia and Dowell. He's convinced Lid is the only one who can step up and become the next archbishop. Elena listens in silence, her face giving away nothing. But Lid locks eyes with him and, with ice-calm politeness, shuts his offer down. A decision so shocking that Millie couldn't even get a word out. The Duke leans in and asks if the capital haunts him with bad memories. Lid drops the bombshell. He, too, was an orphan, growing up in a tiny village. He was itching to step right into his foster father's footsteps and make them his own. After his exile, he admits he felt like total trash, worthless to his very bones. Yet the kindness from last year's people lit a brand new fire in him and gave him a real purpose. He finally sits down with Elena and admits he's found the one place where he truly belongs. A sudden realization hits her hard. His whole story mirrors hers down to the core. Then he saw a girl battling with everything she had, fighting tooth and nail to guard that precious home, and Millie heard every word, her heart getting fully hooked because he told her her dedication lit a fire in him to repay the village's kindness. With tears burning in his eyes, he insists he can't possibly walk away now. Overwhelmed with emotion, Millie leans into his shoulder. Lid gets caught off guard and softly blurts, "Your name is..." He blurts out, "Why are you crying?" Totally stunned, she's fallen apart. Elena yanks her into a tight hug and tells her that a woman's heart is wild and complicated, leaving Lid completely clueless. The Duke just shrugs it off with a knowing smile, like he's already seen this outcome coming. He vows to stand shoulder to shoulder with Lastia Village, no matter what. Elena leans in close, pumps Millie up, and insists they have to lock in and unite their feelings. Then she blurts out that she's coming with them to Lastia. She swears on her family's name right there, with her whole heart promising she'll protect the village no matter what. She boldly announces that she's about to be officially sent in to help them. She snaps her head to Lid and calls him her master, and begs him to train her, flat out admitting she's still too weak to stand on her own. Lid grins as he gladly takes her in as his brand new student. The Duke realizes one thing: there's no way to slow his daughter down anymore. Meanwhile, in a city drowned in night, shadows crept over everything. A mysterious figure strides onto the cobblestone streets like they own the night. He strides with pure intent through the silent alleyways, like he's hunting something only he can feel. He slipped into the shadows, waiting to meet the one person he came for. A woman with a chilling stare bursts out of the darkness. He thrusts a familiar black crystal into her hands. She takes the toxic or walks off with it without even a word. Their secret meeting wraps up, and with one last look, they split apart. Back in the royal capital, the grand cathedral towers over everything like a holy fortress. Inside, Archbishop Goldberg is in full-blown panic, seething with rage. The young priest snaps that Lid's research has vanished. There's not a trace of it anywhere. Goldberg erupts in a fury, screaming at the useless priest for how everything spiraled into this mess. But then the subordinate snaps back, reminding him those orders were his, straight from him, a tiny detail that sends the archbishop into an even deeper rage. He snaps an order at the terrified boy. Go get them right now. He has to get those reports or Duke Vargas's favor is gone for good. But that frantic hunt might already be way too late. A brand new mystery, an elite high-ranking priest storms into the cathedral. The high-ranking priest stands tall and stares out over the royal capital, like he's hunting secrets in every shadow. Goldberg seethes, realizing everyone's brushing him off like he doesn't even exist. The man keeps staring out the window, completely swallowed by his thoughts. The archbishop lunges for his attention, but the moment he speaks, his words choke and vanish in his own throat. The priest finally pivots to face him, wears a calm smile, and apologizes for making him wait. He blurts out that he was just lost in thought, and it drives Goldberg into silent, boiling fury. Then he shouts the archbishop's name, and the old man flinches like he got hit in the chest. He grills Goldberg, demanding to know if he finally understands why he's here, because he's unleashed a massive problem. The archbishop can only tremble and sweat. His confidence gets obliterated in an instant. He finally gets it. This isn't just about Duke Vargas anymore. This could shake the entire church to its core. Goldberg crumples to the floor and grovels, begging forgiveness for what he's done with his own hands. But that high-ranking priest doesn't buy a single thing. His subordinates' greedy schemes leave him totally unimpressed. He tells Goldberg point blank that the church doesn't rule through magic, it runs on the people's trust. And right then, the archbishop clicks this whole chaos traces back to that one protest letter. But deep inside the grand cathedral, this sermon isn't like anything you've ever heard before. A brutal cry of pain tears through the halls that were silent until now. Goldberg tore through the place and left a shattered, sobbing wreck on the floor. A top-tier priest rips into a brutal lesson on humility, and it leaves everyone shaken. Then he flashes a chilling smile, basically daring Goldberg to realize he should have taken that letter way more seriously. The priest leans in and demands to know, does Goldberg truly grasp what started this entire disaster? The archbishop can barely get words out, shattered by the interrogation, reduced to stammering nothing but wreckage. His superior lays it out straight. The protests were born the day Lid got exiled, and then he delivers a brutal lesson with every word, a mark that would brand him forever, burning his sins into his life as a never-ending reminder. That word haunts Goldberg's mind as tears pour down his face. There's only one escape route. Now bring Lid Heworth back to the capital. The archbishop can only spit out the name of the priest he threw out. He gets a direct order to put Lid back on her throne as royal priest right now, and as the scene flips, a black cat lurks in the shadows, watching every move. The top priest leans in and thanks his feline partner, Yuria, for the help she's given. Yuria's on her knees, face burning with shame after the things she blurted out back then. She leans in and quizzes the high-ranking priest, demanding to know if Lid will actually come back. He clocks just how fiercely she can't stand that young priest, and tell them to just sit tight, because the prodigal son will come back on his own. Yuria looks fed up and blurts that it all comes down to a contract, but the priest just flashes a knowing, rock-solid smile like he already knows how this ends. He's got total faith that Lid will go all out and do whatever it takes. Then the story snaps back to peaceful Lastia village, calm and quiet for a breath, before everything changes again. Where Elena tries to cook and the whole thing goes up in flames, disaster after disaster. Lana and Millie sprint in to stop the noble's fury from ruining breakfast. Silky smirks and proves she can do both at the exact same time. Elena, though, treats cooking like it's her own private battlefield. Next morning, Lid peers out his window as Millie swings the laundry up to dry. He bursts out with a bright, "Good morning," and thanks her for the hard work she's been putting in. Millie grins and fires back the greeting. And just like that, her whole day feels brighter. But Lid asks anyway, lifting a laundry piece that is so obviously not his right in front of everyone. Mortified, Elena snaps out of it and bolts, leaving him utterly stunned and confused. She sprints back inside, snatches that delicate thing right out of his hand in a flash. He grins and slides the exact piece of clothing she's been hunting for right into her hands. A few days later, the village goes wild celebrating their hard-won victory over the Gigantode. Millie grins and basically declares, "With Eleanor here, our home is louder, brighter, and more alive than ever. And with last year's village-ending threat finally wiped out, because the Duke stepped in at the perfect moment, everything snapped back to normal. These calm days felt like they'd never end. Then a dark new shadow slid in. Elena suddenly snaps to an expression packed with pure concern. A familiar face just dropped in her father, Duke Vargas. She blurts out, "Why are you here?" Because part of her fears he's shown up just to drag her back home. But the tired look on his face screams that this isn't a friendly stop by. The story rips away to a whole new corner of the kingdom. Right as the young priest steps up, he drops shocking news. Marquis Abe is dead. The whole group leans in, eyes locked, while the Duke lays out everything with a straight face and zero room for misunderstanding. He reveals that the Marquis was getting grilled non-stop about who bought those black crystals. Right as he was about to bring up the Royal Capitol Church, he abruptly crumpled right there in his cell and died. The doctor tore into the body, and what they found was downright strange. A haunting, glowing mark suddenly flared on his chest. The Duke leans in and reveals the truth. It's a brand marked by a glowing, mind-bending, intricate pattern. Elena finally clocks it. He didn't just vanish. He was shut down by the exact person they've been hunting. And that lid snaps everything into place. It has to be someone from the church. The Duke leans in and demands to know if there's anyone out there who can pull off a curse that lethal. Lid hesitates, scrambling to find the perfect words before the moment slips away. The Duke snaps him shut, declaring they'll hold out until King Rakshana finally arrives. A surge of shared shock crashes through the whole house. Elena's jaw drops. Her own father is really talking about the king swinging by for a casual chat. The Duke only chuckles and tells him straight up he came to talk to Lid directly. Lid's jaw drops. He can't believe royalty even wants to meet him, and the questions hit him like a truck. Millie doesn't just hesitate, she snaps straight into full-on panic mode. She and the chief finally notice it. Everything's ready for nothing, and a royal visit is minutes away. Silky clocks it instantly. Lana's the only one who's weirdly calm while everyone else is on edge. She just muses that once the lid's on, even the impossible suddenly feels within reach. A few hours later, the welcoming committee holds their breath, waiting for what happens next. The whole village holds its breath in a shaky hush, waiting for their royal guest to arrive. A royal carriage barrels in, and Millie can't stop wondering what kind of king could ride in style like that. An attendant swings open the door, and the lavish royal transport spills into view like a prize. The whole village drops to their knees as a mysterious figure starts to rise from the depths. One crisp, polished boot slams onto the cobblestone street, like it owns every inch of it. It's King Rakshana himself fully on display, looking like the absolute ruler he's meant to be. Lid and the chief drop into a deep bow. Then the king halts just inches from them. The chief's face breaks into a cold sweat, and he can't stop thinking, did he already blow it? But then, right in front of everyone, shock hits hard as the king himself drops to his knees. He wobbles a weak finger and admits with zero pride that motion sickness hits him hard and brutal. Lid and the chief just stood there, jaws on the floor, stunned, speechless. The weight of the royal visit vanished completely. His attendant tells him the king just needs a second to catch his breath. Millie leans in and whispers to Lid, asking what they're supposed to do next. But then it hits her. In an instant, she offers to help. Lid points out a rare medicinal herb that could be the cure they need. The attendant looks nervous as hell, but they're still ready to try anything you throw at them. Millie lifts a freshly brewed remedy made with her secret herbs, ready to save the day. The attendant just stares in disbelief at the herb's jaw-dropping quality. The attendant checks the herb like it's the last piece of the puzzle, and when it checks out, the whole group can finally breathe as they watch. The king gulps it down, and just like that, he's blazing with fresh energy, staring in disbelief at what it just did to him. Then he whips around and nails the ID spotting the young priest, Lid Heworth, without missing a beat. With a grateful grin, he hooks his hands onto the Lid's shoulders and thanks him for everything he did. Lid admits the herb's boost came from Millie's skill, and he's the one who gave her the power to do it. The king yanks them both into a huge hug, roaring with laughter. Royal manners be damned. Once he finally calms down, he admits Duke Vargas filled him in about Lid's one-of-a-kind power. And, just like that, when you think you're safe, speak of the devil. And the Duke himself shows up with a proud, smug smile. He drops into a deep bow and greets his king with pure, unwavering respect. The king just lets out a heavy sigh and tells him to drop all that formality in front of everyone. The king leans in and tells him to meet the duke later for a drink, but the duke reminds him right now, he's not just any noble. He's here as the king. Then the king snaps his focus squarely onto Lid. He demands to see the legendary rite of conferment with his own eyes. And, just like that, deep inside the humble village church, the king's jaw drops. He's completely stunned by what he's seeing. He hears that the villagers hunt wyverns for sport now, and the shock hits him so hard, his attendant's horror turns his stomach. The craziest part isn't just picking a skill, it's rewriting the ritual again and again, and it's way beyond anything he ever dreamed was possible. He stares down at the young priest, and you can tell his decision is already locked in, and throws out an offer to Lid, making him his personal royal priest. Lid's jaw drops when the king tosses out his unbelievable offer, and he's not alone. Every single person in that room goes deathly still, stunned out of their minds. Millie clocks the truth. This means Lid is about to become the king's personal priest. He realizes this role is way past anything he ever dared to imagine. With a calm, steady voice, he politely shuts down the king's offer, a choice that blasts a second, even bigger shockwave straight through the whole room. The duke just laughs off the whole thing, while the king broods over the rejection like it crushed his pride. But the king isn't bothered at all. He openly admits he's heard every bit about Lid's loyalty. He realizes that our boy is just as driven and loyal as the duke promised. Once the small talk fades, the king snaps, "Enough pleasantries," and moves straight into business. The king leans in and tells them, "I trudged all this way for a matter that could shake the whole nation." He shows off the black crystal they just ripped from the gigantode. He spills that his investigation has finally stitched together a bunch of chilling dots. A map erupts with dark marks, showing monster outbreaks crashing across the entire kingdom. Lid snaps the girls into focus and tells them to relive their recent encounters. Millie can't forget the wild swarm of wyverns that suddenly circled their village. And Elena's mind snaps back to the pack of black wolves they just tore through. While hunting dragons just to stay sharp, Lid realizes he's also been spotting rare monsters out there. That comment hits the table and every single person just stares at him like, "Really?" with zero enthusiasm. The king finally confirms what they've been fearing. Every one of those incidents is tied to the same hidden thread. The attendant blurts out that monster outbreaks are spreading way faster than anyone can keep up with. And the moment clicks into place like it was made for the black crystal mining. Lid snaps to it. This isn't random at all. Someone is cooking this chaos on purpose. The king snaps his doubts into truth. Someone inside the church is behind it. A shocking revelation hits our boy like a freight train, and he's left utterly stunned. The king demands to know if there's even the tiniest suspect, no matter how thin the lead. Then the lid flips open, and out pops the name Cardinal Dryad. The king hears that name and instantly realizes it belongs to the man who runs the whole church. Lid confesses that he only spotted the man one time, and it was from far away. So the king leans in and demands, "Why would you ever suspect him in the first place?" The king leans in, eyes locked on Lid, as Lid lays out his logic like it's the truth that can't be denied. He insists only 2 men on the planet can handle a curse that strong. The king leans in and snaps that Gulbert had a crystal clear motive, but Lid insists those 2 crimes just don't line up. The king leans in and demands to know why the cardinal would even dare to do it. Lid is convinced Goldberg is a greedy snake, not some ice-cold killer. Silky cuts in fast, bragging that he's Lid's most trusted partner. A single revelation detonates inside the king's mind and fries every last thought. He shrugs it off like, "Yeah, sure," and writes it all down as just how diversity works. But with zero proof, their investigation grinds to a dead stop. The king realizes a killer this meticulous wouldn't dare leave a single scrap of proof behind. Lid hesitates, his confidence crumbles under the crushing weight of his own accusation. He admits it's tough to swallow the fact that the church's leader could be this evil, but the king leans in and tells him to trust his instincts because the king will take care of everything else. Right then, a terrified villager slammed through the door. He blurts out that a stranger's just arrived, hunting for Lid. The king grins at our boy and tells him to dash out and find out who's at the door. Outside, a truly unwelcome stranger marches through the village, and the air feels like it turns against everyone. Millions of silky frozen can only stare, stunned to the bone. Lid spots him at once, Archbishop Goldberg. The villagers stand there, frozen in place, wide-eyed with pure shock, faces twisted in disgust. Goldberg saunters up with a nauseatingly sweet grin and asks, like everything's fine, whether Lid's been doing all right. He says he's brought good news, and he orders our boy to rejoice like the whole world just got brighter. With a huge flourish, he announces that Lid can finally march back to the capital. He lets out a sharp laugh, insisting that with a talent like Lid's, that guy has no business wasting away in a little village this small. But Lid shuts it down with a rock-solid, no-nonsense refusal. He vows he'll never stand for the archbishop slamming the people of Lastia. With a cold, dismissive flick of his hand, he tells the old man to get out of here and go home. Goldberg explodes with fury, slamming Lid back into his dream and reminding him of every reward waiting just ahead. But as he stomps away, a shadowy figure watches from the dark. Knowing Lid won't be shaken that easily, the king keeps his cool as he plainly tells everyone that Lid doesn't hate herself like the rest of them. She's not anywhere near that low self-worth. Goldberg's face contorts with raw, unfiltered rage. He roars at the king, demanding he stay completely out of it. But before he can finish, a flash of steel slices his outburst in half. The king's own attendant presses a blade to his throat, warning him that his disrespect will cost him his life. And at last, Goldberg's brain snaps into place, realizing exactly who he's just slammed. The king waves off his desperate, groveling apology like it's nothing, and calls out the hypocrisy of exiling Lid in the first place. Goldberg finally clocks that he's already heard the whole story from his old buddy, Duke Vargas. The king drops to his knees, grinning wide like he can't believe he finally gets this little moment to talk. Night creeps in and swallows Lastia village whole, getting darker by the second. Goldberg throws himself at the king's feet, begging for his life. But the king isn't looking to torture anyone, he just wants answers. And he wants them fast. Lid leans in and grills him about the church's big boss, Cardinal Dryad. Just the name alone slams into the archbishop like a blade, and pure fear hits him instantly. The king leans in and demands to know whether he has any clue where the cardinal is right now. Goldberg stammers and blurts out that he has absolutely no clue. The king leans in and demands, "Tell me, will you swear that to the goddess?" But Goldberg knows Cardinal Dryad's wrath isn't just scary, it's downright terrifying. He snaps to the truth he can't afford to keep talking and swears he didn't know better. The king whips around to Lid, straight up demanding his take on everything. Lid is convinced the cardinal has to be behind Goldberg's visit. The king nods, fully aware that any lie would only drown the truth in smoke, but Lid fires back that his own skills could be the key. Then he calls forth yet another divine weapon. Ornate golden scales snap into existence in his hands, gleaming like they've been waiting for him. He storms up to the king and demands permission to run the interrogation himself. Lid stays cool and demands Goldberg tell him where the cardinals are, but the old man just huffs and swears he has no clue. Lid locks eyes with him and declares loud and sure that the archbishop is lying. Goldberg's fury erupts as he demands proof until Lid points at the scales, tilting hard to one side. He lays out the scales' way of separating truth from lies, and this one is barely holding on. It's about to tip. Goldberg scoffs and swats the scales off like some flimsy cheap trick. Then boom, an ominous, shadowy mass bursts straight up from his feet. He stumbles backward, desperate to break free from the darkness that won't let go. He screams in pure panic, begging for answers. What did Lid do? Lid tells him the truth hits like a weight. Each lie he breathes into the world darkens the shadow, and it only grows with every single falsehood. But Goldberg, drenched in sweat, still swears up and down that he knows nothing. The scales tip even harder, sealing the truth with another loud, shameless lie, and that shadowy mass around his legs swells up even bigger. He snaps to the horrifying truth he's trapped, and one word will ignite the deadly brand burning on his back. Lid just flat out says the only thing he wants is the truth. The king finally clicks. This contract is the real key that unlocks the whole disaster. Lid hands Goldberg his final shot at confessing. But the archbishop clings to his tail, sweat pouring down his face as he keeps talking. A shadow mass suddenly explodes into motion, and the sight hits them like a punch to the gut. He throws himself at the old man's feet, pleading, "Just tell me the truth, no games, no lies." But when Goldberg drops this, you realize it's already over, too late to fix anything. Lid finally realizes a magical contract is trapping his voice, and that's why he can't speak. The archbishop is swallowed by creeping darkness, and it roars for help like something trapped is screaming for rescue. Everyone else could only stare in total shock, their mouths hanging open at how the whole situation flipped. but the king's face shows grim understanding, like he already knows exactly what's coming. Lit nods and agrees to help, and his face hardens with the kind of priestly resolve that dares the world to stop him. He explains how to shatter a contract this powerful. Golbert has to dig deep and force himself to defy it. The curse snaps back and wriggles violently, while Lid demands to know where the cardinal is. Golbert fights like hell to get words out, but the magical seal clamps down on his whole body. The shadows surge harder, like they're throwing punches at his inner war. He chokes back a silent scream as his whole body jerks and convulses under the brutal strain. With his last scrap of willpower, he snaps free, and then the truth hits. The cardinal is right there in the capital. Meanwhile, in that same capital, a voice slices through the air and calls out to Cardinal Dryad. The high-ranking priest leans in and tells his companion that Goldberg's contract has just been shattered, and her jaw drops in total disbelief. Urea can't even process it. Goldberg tore up the contract, and somehow the death penalty never got triggered. But the top priest just grins and says, "This proves it. Everything comes together." A sudden flashback cuts in back when that young priest grabbed Goldberg's attention and swore that Lid's moves were steering him straight to the truth. That high-ranking priest is absolutely sure sooner or later Lid Heworth is going to come crawling into his presence. Meanwhile, the young priest looks like he's begging for Goldberg's breakdown, like it's the happiest day of his life. What a ray of sunshine. The tale suddenly snaps back to the day Lid got kicked out of his duties. 3 months have already crashed by since he got booted out of the capital and slammed into exile. A familiar voice blares his name, yanking him out of his thoughts like a bolt of lightning. It's Millie, grinning ear to ear as she spills the story about how wildly fun the last 3 months have been. Elena and Silky nod in amazement, stunned by how fast Silky shuts down every crisis they throw his way. The whole village crowds around to send them on their way, overflowing with gratitude for everything they've done. Lit grins and announces their next destination, the royal capital, and, with the sky wide open above them, their brand new journey finally bursts to life. On their way, they pulled out a map and studied the fresh monster outbreaks like clues that could change everything. Their first stop is this creepy little village so quiet it feels like the air itself is holding its breath. The streets lie totally empty, and the eerie silence screams just how terrified everyone is. A local leaned out a window and screamed, warning everyone that danger was right there. Elena jolts as the man blurts out his frantic plea, and, just like that, a giant bat-like nightmare dive bombs out of nowhere. Lid yells for Millie, and Millie braces ready to unleash her thornbind. But Millie's ready. Her vines burst up from the ground like a sudden storm. The beast gets snared mid-swoop, utterly trapped as it comes crashing down. Lid then hurls another divine weapon into the fight. A blinding flash erupts, and the creature is purified in an instant. In the blink of an eye, the whole pack of monsters gets wiped out. Now that the danger is wiped out, the team quickly surveys the damage they just unleashed. The villagers burst out to cheer for the group, praising their insane skill like legends. Lid clocks the monster towering over everything and realizes its power is on a whole other level, but their investigation drives them deeper and deeper into the monster's lair. Right when they finally track the cause, they stumble on yet another black crystal. Silky realizes they've just stumbled across the second black crystal on their journey. Lid sprawled out the map and felt his jaw drop. Every monster outbreak synced up perfectly with the crystal locations. And Silky says they also line up perfectly with the Cardinal Dryad's official travel schedule. Lid suddenly remembers what the Archbishop Goldberg back from the dark sat them down and told them. Even though everyone knew where the Cardinal was headed, his real mission stayed a total enigma. Elena decides there's no real reason for him to be roaming these remote places. No other explanation at all. Silky blurts out, "So we just keep grabbing the crystals as we stumble on them." But Lid is convinced they've already got more than enough proof to move. With their plan locked in, they sprint toward the capital at first light. But Lid cuts in this is a covert mission, and it crushes Elena's dream of a cozy little inn. That night, they set up camp deep in the quiet woods, letting the darkness breathe around them. Millie kicks into action and uses her skill to carve out a warm, cozy hideout right inside the tree. But she can't shut her eyes at all, so she fires off the question, "Elena, are you still awake?" The Duke's daughter admits she can't sleep either. Her mind churns with Lid's crushing burden. She can't wrap her head around how a high-ranking priest could be this corrupt. Millie can't wrap her head around it. Why would anyone want to unleash that kind of suffering? Elena forces a smile, convinced the king will finally put justice back where it belongs. Then she gapes at their 5-star, all-natural lodgings, like she can't believe she hit paradise. She nudges him and says, "Come on, let's step outside for a breath of fresh air." A sudden hush where they pause, soak in their thoughts, and then finally step out of the shelter. But Elena refuses to let herself relax, not in the dark. Not for a second. Millie urges her to get back inside, warning that creepy things prowl through the night. The Duke's daughter, shaking with fear, reluctantly swallows her panic and agrees to the terms. But the moment Millie steps outside, she freezes because she realizes she's not alone. Lid is wide awake, pacing the fire's glow while Silky sleeps soundly nearby. He shoots her a grateful smile, then hands her a warm bowl of soup like a thank you hug. Millie jolts, suddenly realizing something that hits her like a punch. With Silky out cold, Lid is left alone with her, no one else in sight. He flashes a smile and pushes the soup back to her, right as she struggles to quiet her pounding, racing heart. With a shy blush, she gratefully grabs the warm bowl from his hands, accepting his kindness like it's a precious secret. But in a total panic, she botches the bowl and fumbles it. He shoots, "Are you okay?" as she blurts out a rushed apology, distracted by everything around her. He gently pries the now empty bowl from her hands. He tells her not to worry, then bolts off to wash it himself, leaving Millie staring in stunned silence, like her whole world had just blinked out of existence. Her eyes snap to the other bowl of soup, the one that Lid had been eating straight from. A half-eaten meal just sprawled there beside the fire, like it got abandoned mid-bite, and this wildly familiar, super flustered thought slams straight into her head. She cradles the bowl like it's holy, bracing herself for that sneaky little kiss. She takes a shaky sip from the bowl, like she's not sure she's brave enough for the taste. A sweet, blissful blush blooms across her cheeks. She swears it tastes exactly like him, while Silky sits there judging her in icy silence. But then, bam, a sudden noise yanks her out of her daydream. It's just Lid coming back with a brand new bowl, wrapped in pure, silky smooth. Millie can't stop gushing. She calls that soup absolutely heavenly. Silky tells him, Lid's already set up a barrier for the night. Millie finally blurts out the question she's been dying to ask. Silky tells her, "You can't understand me until you finally understand Liddy." And Lid drops the truth just like her. He grew up an orphan, too. Silky leans in and says, "I'm the result of Lid's divine weapon summoning skill." Millie is totally stunned. She blurts out if Silky himself is some kind of divine weapon. The cat flashes a smug, self-satisfied grin, like it already knows it's won. But the lid snaps into place and makes it clear the weapon isn't the cat, but it was that jewel on his collar that really stole the show. He breaks it down. This is the physical form of his foster father's wish. As a baby, Lid's magic spiraled completely out of control. Millie's jaw drops because magic doesn't usually show up until much later in life. Lid tells you straight up, if you've got magic, you're already built for the skill. He lets out a laugh and straight up admits he's always been a little different. Millie finally clicks. She understands exactly why Lid's power is so wildly abnormal. Silky couldn't stop thinking about the brutal training Lit had to go through just to finally get his magic under control. His foster father, Priest Grimm, was the stuff of legends towering in strength and spitting out foul-mouthed threats like they were prayers. But Lid remembers him as the single kindest soul he ever met, a man who opened his home to both a lost boy and a stray cat. Grimm stepped up and fought for Lid the very moment his own strength started to slip away. Silky still remembers how that old man spent every night pacing through drinks, chatting like it was fate, and spinning dreams about Lid's future. From his bed, the young kid would listen in silence, pretending hard enough to fall asleep. Silky could barely stand it. He just wanted to jump into that conversation back then. Then the lid flips open, and the old priest's last wish comes crashing into the light. Was chasing the dream of watching his boy grow up only for that happiness to slip away way too soon. So Lid put his brand new skill to work and forged one rare, precious jewel with his own hands. A precious gift that finally cracked the old man's confusion, letting him truly understand Silka's words. He was determined to repay the man who saved his life, even after that man was already gone. A promise he's kept every single day, right up to today. Millie is utterly swept away by the sheer power of their bond. Lit tells them that just like her, they were lucky enough to stumble into a real family. She thanks him for rescuing them, but he cuts in fast, saying they saved him first. Now that bond isn't just theirs anymore, it's spread wider, wrapping in a duke's daughter, and even the king himself. And, with the two of them teaming up, they're going to smash the Black Crystal conspiracy for good. No second chances. Millie jolts awake with a gasp, shouting Elena's name like it's an emergency. But it was all just a dream, while the Duke's daughter slept peacefully right beside him. The next morning, the royal capital finally bursts into view on the horizon. Lid throws back the story of their journey because they've already gathered 2 of the black crystals, the exact same poisonous ore that kicked off this whole nightmare. Meanwhile, that high-ranking priest is already inside the capital, waiting on their arrival. He tells Uriah, "Relax, everything's hitting exactly the plan." He strikes a match and lights a candle, and his sneaky plan starts to reveal itself piece by piece. He thinks the whole point of bringing Lid back was to reignite hope in the church, but now he'll use the king like a tool just to get everything he wants. The royal capital roared with life, towering spires scraping the sky, while packed streets screamed with hustle and noise. The city hums with the market's chaos, vendors shouting, fresh smells swirling, and every stall begging for your attention. Somehow, there's a spot where even dragons shred on unicycles. The team pushes through the weird, bustling crowds, weaving toward whatever's next. Millie's jaw drops as Elena points out the city's massive layout, and the whole place feels unreal in her eyes. Massive outer walls slam the gates between everyday people and the inner sanctum. She can't stop wondering how in the world they'll ever manage to land an audience with the king, and Lid keeps her cool, telling him that with the right papers, it's a total breeze. He's dead sure that the king's personal letter is their golden ticket straight to everything they've been chasing. The guard squinted like their story just didn't add up. The guard skims the letter, and the moment he spots the king's attendant's name, his face clicks into recognition. The gates blast open, and the guards hustle them inside before anyone even gets a second to breathe. A voice he knows like an old song shouts, "Lid," and he whips around in shock. Gauss, the king's attendant, is already bowing hard, thanking them for getting there so fast. He ushers them straight toward the castle like he owns the ground under his feet. This guy is high-standing, no doubt, but Gauss suddenly slams on the brakes, panic flashing across his face. He panics and blurts out that the king has vanished. Lid can only freeze and stare, stunned that one wrong move could knock a king off his throne. Ghost drops the bomb the king just rode out on an inspection tour, and he's sure he'll run into Lid somewhere in the city. Millie whips her head around the jam-packed streets, and the moment she does, she realizes their mission just got way harder. While they search, Millie slips through the packed streets, weaving through the crowd like she's on a mission. She jolted when an old man started begging out of the dark alley like he'd been hiding there for years. Elena snaps at her to stay out of it, warning that getting involved will only drag them into trouble. But even she stalls mid-sentence, like the truth is choking her words. Right then, a hooded stranger closes in on the old man and thrusts a tempting offer his way. He guides him to a spot where real, honest work is waiting. Millie shoots the stranger a grateful nod, then blurts out, "Wait, are you King Rakshana?" The guy smirks and quietly confirms he's slipping through town incognito. Elena goes speechless when the king finally lays it out that a ruler stuck inside his castle. He can't even glimpse the truth of his own kingdom. The king leans in and orders Lid to spill every detail of his journey, no skipping a single moment. Lit breaks it down, showing exactly how monster outbreaks are tied to those black crystals, and the king is blown away by the evidence they've brought to the table. He slams the toxic ore into the Lid's hands, and the king immediately promises to keep it locked down and guarded. Right when he's about to turn back, Gauss crashes in with a tray of food. The attendant rips into his king, furious that he ditched his duties and went stuffing himself with street food. But the king just grins, glowing with pride at how far Lid has come. Ghost keeps firing off his rant, and the king's memory somehow keeps conveniently slipping out of reach. Elena jumps in to serve the food while it's still warm, and Silky just sits there, waiting with calm, steady patience. Then, bam! A sudden ear-splitting roar erupts and shatters the peaceful moment to pieces. Millie and Elena both snap their heads upward, staring in total disbelief. A colossal dragon has descended and is perched on the very top of the city tower, looming over everything. Lid instantly feels the nasty, tainted energy leaking from the black crystal. He snaps an order to Millie to hold it back, while Silky rushes in, shielding the civilians from harm. Her vines burst upward, snapping tight around the beast atop the tower. But she realizes the city's got way too few plants to build a real stronghold. Lid reassures her, then clenches up ready to unleash his divine weapon. The dragon thrashes against the vines, and its raw power crushes everything in its path. The thorny restraints start cracking and giving way under the brutal weight of the pressure. The crew can only stand there, helpless, as the beast claws at its chains poised to break free any second. Dust and smoke explode upward from the tower, choking the air as they billow into the sky. Elena and Silky can't shake the thought, was that attack truly enough? But the dragon isn't dead, it's just wounded, and now fury rips through it. Silky shoots Elena a warning. This beast is going on a full rampage. With a furious roar, it whips that massive tail through the air and slams the whole tower down like it's nothing. Down below, civilians can only shriek in pure terror. Lid and his crew huddled in tight, shielding everyone as debris rained down. He clocks that the dust cloud is swallowing his view of the beast, so he leaps onto Solomon's carpet and rockets through the skies, ready to finish it all. Through the choking cloud of dust, he spots the dragon. He shuts his eyes, throws out an apology, and braces for the thing he's about to do. And he unleashes the full, god-tier power of his divine weapon. A blazing pillar of holy light crashes down from the heavens and blasts the corrupted beast with a wave of purifying power. Down below, the crowd just stares in total shock, unable to even breathe. His team cheers for the win way too early, like the fight's over when it's not. But Lid spots a familiar shard tangled in the wreckage. He stands amid the rubble, staring down the damage and confirming his worst fears. It's another cursed chunk of toxic black crystal. He raises the shard high and roars to the crowd that the poison is finally gone. Elena suddenly screams a desperate warning about what's lurking right behind him. Lid snaps the cap on, utterly thrown off by your sudden panic, because the shard he snagged wasn't the only one out there. A nearby warehouse just crumpled to the ground, yanking open a massive stash of deadly toxic ore. Lid just freezes there, mind racing, unable to believe something like this could even happen. Right then, a brand new voice slices straight through all the chaos. A shadowy man in a dark cloak steps forward and commands the crowd with a voice full of mystery. Lid realizes the crystal didn't just glow, it dragged the dragon straight into madness. He grins, completely baffled. Why is royal land hiding a secret stash of poison? The whole crowd suddenly explodes into panic eyes wide with suspicion, no one trusting a single second, and then Lid snaps to it. This entire mess is the handiwork of Cardinal Dryad. Their fear spirals into wild conspiracy theories. Lid churned with fury, and all he could do was shout the Cardinal's name again and again. But the mysterious man slaps a hand onto his shoulder. He shoves the crystal into the spotlight and admits it's all a trap. Lid slams the point home. The royal family's honor is on the line. The man lays it out straight. This whole scheme is built to pin the blame on the king. A terrifying realization slams into our boy like a nightmare you can't wake up from, while the real mastermind hides behind the mask of a kind-hearted savior. Lid blurted out the name of the mastermind behind it all, Cardinal Dryad. Right then, the cardinal himself steps in, and he demands to know why the exiled priest has crawled back. Lit just kept chasing the trail of destruction the cardinal left in his wake. The cardinal scoffs in his face, daring him to come up with real, undeniable proof. He blurts out, "So Lid means that giant pile of poisonous ore, or the one deadly piece his accomplice is gripping in his hands right this second." Then he hypes up the crowd and basically dares them. If they go digging into him, the royal family better brace themselves too. Lit lays it out clearly. A full investigation is the only thing that makes sense. But before anything else, he swears he'll hunt down this evil himself, so justice finally lands where it belongs. The cardinal just smiles like they've been in sync all along, two loyal servants of the goddess, ready to team up. Later on, deep inside the grand royal castle, the walls started closing in. The whole crew huddles together, plotting their next devastating move. The king snaps, asking what they're supposed to do next now that the cardinal has already made his move. He admits it's a total crisis because the enemy has them trapped with nowhere left to run. Lid and Silky suddenly clock it. This is a dirty scheme meant to pit the people against the crown. Silky cheekily barges up to the king and begs him to forgive Lid for his little slip-ups. The king hears the cat's slang request and instantly freezes totally, completely baffled. Lid bowed hard in apology, swallowing his guilt for the rash move that almost sparked a national crisis. But the king only grins and tells him, "Don't sweat it." Lid, missing the whole point, suddenly gets fired up and storms straight to the cardinal to face him head-on. Lid admits he was totally naive for trusting that cardinal's letter. Millie can't stop worrying that his choices have stained the royal family's honor, but Elena and Millie burst forward, backing him up and swearing the blame falls squarely on the cardinal. Millie nods with fierce agreement to the duke's daughter, and the king just lets out a weary sigh. Everyone's clearly ready to storm the cathedral, but Lid is drawing a hard line. He's not letting this spill into the public like some big drama. He flat out declares that the royal family has zero involvement in all of this. This is personal business. He's going to see his old superior again. Silky tells the king, once Lid has her mind made up, you're better off turning a blind eye. Ghost fires off doubts, but the king shrugs it off. He's wagering everything on that young priest. The king finally clicks this whole time. It was the cardinal's plan from the very start. He admits it plain and simple. Lid spotted the only way ahead, and he had no right to shut it down. All he can do in this national crisis is sit there, helpless, and mourn his own lack of power. And, just like that, the whole team bursts into the grand cathedral. Lid steals his nerves, ready to face whatever's coming. Millie can barely believe it. There's a massive crowd packed in, stretching as far as the eye can see. Lid can tell they're all here because fear has them cornered, chasing salvation like it's the only way out. Elena spots a weird piece of cloth, and it's totally shrouding someone out of sight. Silky says it's a basic cloaking trick, then tells her to keep her eyes fixed straight ahead. Just like clockwork, Cardinal Dryad shows up with a dramatic entrance that screams, "Major trouble is coming." Lid decides their first move is to barrel straight into the cardinal's office to search. He's certain that if a black crystal is found there, it'll be the slam-dunk proof they've been waiting for. They storm into his private chambers only to slam into a door that's locked up tight, like it's waiting to keep them out. Millie knows this is the most crucial spot to hunt, but they're totally trapped with nowhere to go. Silky peeks in and finds the room totally empty, but that only makes the lock disaster worse. So Lid calls down yet another divine weapon, a master key that fits any situation. He tells them this key can crack any lock, and right now, it's their only shot. Millie's a total bundle of nerves, and Silky just can't help loving every second of it. With a gentle click, the ancient lock finally buckles open. Inside, they stumble into a plain, no-frills study that looks harmless until you realize it's hiding something. The room blazes with ornate holy decorations, shining like it's been blessed from the inside out. Elena watches everything around her, and nothing feels off, not even a little. Lid has the cardinal pegged. He'd never leave proof just sitting there. But Silky's sharp senses catch a weird gust of wind blowing in right by the altar. Then they finally shift their focus to a towering, ornate angel statue looming in front of them. The team crowds around the statue and starts tearing it apart for clues. And it's Elena who spots it first, the secret keyhole tucked away like a whispered clue. Lid realizes his divine master key is exactly what he needs for the job. He jabs the key in, and a hidden mechanism kicks into motion, spinning into action. With a bone-deep groan, the wall grinds aside, and a secret passage gapes wide open. A secret staircase drops down into the pitch-black darkness below. While Silky is itching to explore, Elena's having none of it. She clings to Millie like her life depends on it, clearly not loving those creepy secret passageways in the slightest. They drop deeper and deeper, only to hit a dead end that seals their fate. But Lid realizes this isn't some ordinary wall at all. A towering, intimidating door slams right in their way, like it owns the whole path. He warns them that opening it will shatter their invisibility. The girls finally get it. If they want to survive, they've got to be ready to throw down. He shoots his hand toward the handle, checks the lock, and finds it wide open. With a steady grip, he shoves the heavy door wide and forces it to give. The whole team braces in silence, faces set in hard, grim determination. Lid peers into the pitch-black night, hungry for answers about what's waiting just beyond the dark. They stumble into a giant, cavernous hall that looks exactly like a sacrificial chamber. Their gaze snaps to a dark winged silhouette looming in the shadows, a headless statue of the goddess herself, cold, broken, and staring straight through you. The girls can't help it. They're seriously freaked out by what they're seeing. Silky swears she can't smell a trace of black crystal, and somehow that doesn't shut down their lead. Lid knows the Cardinal didn't just stumble into this. He hid this place for a reason, and Lid can feel it. But just as they're digging for answers, a sudden burst of movement smashes the investigation to a halt. A roaring wall of fire explodes from the ground right in front of them. A colossal dragon bursts out of the roaring flames, its scales blazing and shimmering like a living storm. The girls lock eyes and realize it's the legendary Kaiser Dragon right there. Unmistakable. Elena can't wrap her head around it. How did they miss something this massive hidden under a secret layer? They're stuck in place, staring at the colossal beast like it just swallowed the whole world. Lid realizes it's the same as the last one. Its presence is totally invisible, like it's hiding in plain sight. A sudden streak of motion slices through the air. The whole crew tenses up. Something nasty is about to strike from the shadows, but then Lid's gaze snags a sudden glint of something else. He yells a full-on warning as incoming projectiles come crashing in. The dragon unleashes a furious "dare you to try" roar that shakes the air. Elena realizes the invisibility just fizzled out, and before panic can hit, Lid grabs the reins and tells them to hand it over to him. He shuts his eyes tight, ready to unleash yet another divine weapon. His eyes lock in like lasers, and he's laser-focused. Nothing slips past him. He lifts his staff high, poised, and ready to blast back at the threat. But the girls get hammered into place by a storm of massive needles. Silky shoots them a sharp warning. She's telling them a fire attack is about to hit next. The Kaiser Dragon snaps its jaws wide, primed to torch them to ash. But Lid unleashes the full might of his own sacred weapon. A storm of holy light crashes down on the beast, blasting everything in its path. Bolts tore through the air, blasting with pure cleansing power. Holy light detonates into the massive dragon like a celestial punch. But Elena spots another attack charging down from the ceiling, right on top of her. She snaps to it someone's trying to pick them off like a target practice, but Lid knows the truth. He was the only one in the crosshairs. He instantly feels a brutal killing intent aimed straight at him, coming from someone who actually knows how to hunt him. A brand new figure drops onto the stone floor with smooth, graceful precision. It's a woman with a death-cold stare, and her arm is mangled from the blast. Lid spots her at once. Yuria, the secretary. The Cardinals took their secretary as a tool, but now he's standing right in front of them, and he's become their enemy. She lifts her hand high, ready to explode with her own devastating power, and unleashes a whole army of shadowy beasts from the darkness. She screams his name like a battle cry, swearing this is the very spot where he's going down. Lid could only freeze on the spot, completely blindsided by the sheer fury in her eyes.